Chapter 21. You have to be careful. That person might have already sensed that you can cultivate. Sima Yue paused and asked Little Spirit in her heart. Didn't you say that with you around, no one would be able to tell that I can cultivate? Normally, yes. Little Spirit said. I can hide the fluctuations of your spiritual energy. Normal people wouldn't be able to tell. But that person gave me a mysterious feeling. When he grabbed you just now, he should have sensed it. Why did he want to test me? Sima Yue thought for a while. But she couldn't figure it out, so she threw it to the back of her mind. Right now, she should be thinking about how to make the best use of her time to cultivate. When she returned to the classroom, everyone's eyes fell on her again. Most of them were gloating, wondering if Feng Zhixing had asked her to leave. Sima Yue walked towards her seat. Halfway, a leg suddenly stretched out in front of her, wanting to trip her. Seeing that she was about to trip on that person's leg, she took half a step forward and stepped on that person's leg. Then she walked over. When Sima Yue stepped over, her entire weight pressed down on that person, causing him to cry out. Sima Yue, how can you walk like that? That person shouted at Sima Yue. I just walked like that. Sima Yue walked back to her seat without looking back, completely ignoring that person. That person stood up and wanted to teach Sima Yue a lesson, but was pulled back by her deskmate. Miss Meng, Teacher Feng is here. Meng Ting saw Feng Zhixing walk into the classroom and could only sit down unwillingly. She turned her head and looked at Sima Yue, her eyes filled with hatred. Miss Meng, don't be angry. If you want to teach her a lesson, you will have a chance. Ichioji said. That's true, Meng Ting said. Even if she is the grandson of the great general, my Meng family will not be afraid. Yes, although Sima Lai is the great general, he has no family. How can he be compared to the Meng family? Ichioji said with a smile. Quiet. Feng Zhixing looked at the 35 people in the classroom and said, Today, we will continue with yesterday's lesson. Sima Yue listened to Feng Zhixing's lesson. Everyone else was sitting down and taking notes, but she was only listening attentively and didn't make a move. Why aren't you taking notes? When Feng Zhixing was taking notes, Bei Gongtang finished and saw that Sima Yue had not started to take hers to take the initiative. Sima Yue looked at Bei Gongtang and was stunned. After that she said, I've remembered it all. Her Sima Yue to Sima Yue. Sima Yue pointed at her head and said, I've remembered it all here. Seeing Sima Yue to Tang to remember to Tang? Teacher to Tang to Tang to Tang. It was obvious that Bei Gongtang didn't believe her. But she didn't say anything else, and went to look at her own notes. Sima Yue didn't think that Bei Gongtang would sit in the last row. She looked at how seriously she was reading her book. She was quiet, and the cold aura on her body gave her a feeling of being detached from the world. She couldn't understand what she had experienced to give others such a feeling. Also, there was uncontrollable hatred in her eyes. There was only one lesson a day. It was either in the morning or in the afternoon. When there was no lesson, it was for the students to cultivate or do other things. After class, Sima Yue, Fatty Chu and the others returned to the dormitory. She rubbed her hungry stomach and went into the kitchen. While cooking, she couldn't help but sigh. She spent so much time on eating every day. She didn't know when she would be able to advance. Don't worry, you can also cultivate by making food. Little Spirit sensed her thoughts and said, Eating can also help you cultivate. Why haven't I heard of it before? Sima Yue asked. That's because you're ignorant. Little Spirit said the truth without holding back. Sima Yue's mouth twitched. This guy, did he have to be so sharp? She was a magnanimous person and didn't want to argue with a child. She asked humbly, How can you cultivate by eating? Although normal plants can't cultivate, they can absorb spiritual energy and store it in their bodies to become spiritual plants. Little Spirit said. She thought about the photosynthesis of plants in her previous life. It also absorbed carbon dioxide and turned it into oxygen. Plants could absorb spiritual energy. As long as you eat things that contain spiritual energy, you can absorb it into your body. Little Spirit said. Really? Sima Yue didn't believe it and said, If it's really like that, then other people would have discovered this method long ago. But I've never seen anyone mention it. That's because the spiritual energy here is too thin. It can't be absorbed into the body. So the things here are all normal plants and not spiritual plants. Of course it's useless to eat them. Little Spirit said disdainfully. When Sima Yue heard that the things here weren't spiritual plants, she couldn't help but shout at Little Spirit. Then tell me what's the use of it? Stupid, Little Spirit scolded. The things outside aren't spiritual plants, but it doesn't mean that the things inside the spirit pearl aren't spiritual plants. When Sima Yue heard Little Spirit's words, she hurriedly returned to her room and closed the door before entering the spirit pearl. Little Spirit, what do you mean by what you said just now? Little Spirit slowly appeared in the air and said, feel the spiritual energy here. Sima Yue closed her eyes and felt for a moment. When she opened her eyes, she excitedly said, such rich spiritual energy. Little Spirit proudly snorted. Then everything here are spiritual plants? Sima Yue asked. Of course. Little Spirit said, follow me. Sima Yue followed Little Spirit to another area. The moment she stepped in, she saw a sea of vegetables and some domestic animals. Seeing the familiar domestic animals, Sima Yue was a little surprised. She also felt nostalgic and asked, why are there these animals here? These are all low-leveled animals. Even after cultivating here for so many years, they still can't become spiritual beasts. They can only breed continuously. Because of this, I have to clean them up every once in a while. Little Spirit said, I haven't seen these animals in this world before. Why are there so many of them here? Sima Yue asked. These were all left behind by the previous owner. I don't know where he went to catch them. Little Spirit said. Anyway, they have lived here for a long time and have not become spiritual beasts. But at least there is some spiritual energy in their bodies. Also, the vegetables here are all spiritual plants. There are seasonings over there. Sima Yue looked at the familiar ingredients. There were also pepper, cumin and other seasonings. She said, your previous owner didn't go to Earth to rob, right? Who knows? Anyway, he is also a foodie. If you want the vegetables here, you just need to use your mind to control them. Little Spirit said and disappeared. Sima Yue saw Little Spirit disappear and felt the loneliness in his words. She guessed that he must have seen these things and missed his previous owner. However, with these ingredients, she could make a lot of delicious food in the future. Moreover, she could cultivate. Just thinking about it made her feel good. Chapter 22. Sima Yue went to open the door and saw Fatty Chu anxiously knocking on the door. When she opened the door, she saw his hand in the air. What's wrong? She asked. You're here. Fatty Chu said. Hurry up and find your brother. What happened? Why did he suddenly want her to find her brother? That when I came back from the library, I heard Meng Ting say that she wants to challenge you. Fatty Chu panted. Challenge me? Yes. Fatty Chu said. She said that she wants to challenge you. She said that a trash like you shouldn't stay in a class like ours. She said that she wants to defeat you and make you scram. And that's what she said, not what I meant. I got it. Thank you for informing me. Sima Yue said calmly. If she really wants to challenge you, I'm afraid that something bad will happen. So you should hurry up and find your brother. Fatty Chu said. Why do I have to find my brother? I can settle it myself. Sima Yue didn't think that this matter was serious, so she stood at the door without moving. Fatty Chu looked at Sima Yue's indifferent expression and said anxiously, although you are the grandson of the great general, the Ming family is not to be trifled with. They are the biggest family in Yu City, and she is also a direct descendant, so she has always looked down on others. Since she said that she wants to challenge you, she will definitely come. She's very strong? Sima Yue asked. She is only 13 years old, and is already a level 5 spiritual knight. Very strong. Sima Yue looked at him and asked. For people of the same age, she is very strong. Fatty Chu replied. My 5th young master, you don't have to stay here. Hurry up and find your brother. Let him protect you. If she really wants to challenge me, even if I escape today, she will still find trouble with me. Sima Yue said. But isn't fighting prohibited in the academy? Fighting privately is definitely not allowed, but there is a challenge arena in the academy. As long as you are on the arena, you can fight. Fatty Chu said. Many people in the academy choose to settle their personal grudges on the arena. Oh, you are responsible for your own life and death on the stage. You stepped on Meng Ting's leg in front of everyone in the classroom. Based on her personality, she will definitely take revenge on you. Fatty Chu said. You should hide for as long as you can. Hide. Sima Yue crossed her arms in front of her chest. There's no such word in my dictionary, Sima Yue. But Fatty Chu still wanted to convince Sima Yue. The door to the side opened and Wei Ziqi came out. Seeing the two people at a loss, he asked, What's wrong? Fatty Chu looked at Wei Ziqi and said, Meng Ting said that she wanted to challenge Yue. I told her to hurry and find her brother, but she refused to go. Then Meng Ting wants to stir up trouble again. Wei Ziqi seemed to dislike Meng Ting, and his tone was a little harsh. Fatty Chu, I'm very grateful for your reminder. However, it's too late to go now. Sima Yue said as she raised her chin towards the entrance of the courtyard. Fatty Chu looked back and saw that Meng Ting had already brought in a few classmates. Sima Yue, I saw Fatty Chu rushing back to inform you and thought that you had already hidden away. I didn't think that you would have the guts to still be here. Meng Ting said provocatively when she saw Sima Yue. That's because a person like you is not worthy of me running away. Sima Yue replied with disdain. Meng Ting had always been the target of flattery since she was young. She was already very unhappy that the other people in the courtyard did not put her in their eyes. She did not think that a trash like Sima Yue would dare to look down on her. She was instantly enraged and pointed at Sima Yue and said, Since Fatty Chu has already told you, then I won't waste my breath. Sima Yue, I want to challenge you. If you lose, then scram out of the Capital Institute, and are not allowed to take a step back. You, a level 5 spiritual knight, want to challenge me? Alright, although I don't mind competing with you. You only said what should I do if I lose? What if I win? What's in it for me? Sima Yue did not even look at Meng Ting. She looked down at her nails and asked casually. Ouyang Fei's door opened and he came out. He looked at the people in the courtyard and left coldly without saying anything. Bei Gongtang's door opened as well. She looked at Meng Ting and frowned, saying, If you want to quarrel, go outside. Whoever disturbs me while I'm reading can all scram. Sima Yue looked at Ouyang Fei's back and heard Bei Gongtang's merciless words. She secretly thought that the two of them were really similar. Meng Ting seemed to be afraid of Bei Gongtang. When she heard Bei Gongtang shouting at her, she lowered her aura and turned to Sima Yue, saying, You, a trash who can't even sense spiritual energy, can win against me. What a joke. The people who came with Meng Ting all laughed, as if they found Sima Yue's words extremely funny. Is it a joke? Sima Yue smirked, saying, You think it's funny now, but be careful that you won't be able to laugh later. Tell me, what do you want? Meng Ting asked. Sima Yue looked at Bei Gongtang, who was still standing at the door. Her aura was getting colder and colder. She said, I don't want to disturb my roommate. Since you want to challenge me and want me to accept your challenge, you must give me some benefits. How about this? If I'm lucky enough to win against you, you just have to take a detour when you see me. If you agree, we'll go to the challenge arena. If you don't, then scram. Alright, then I'll agree. If you win, I'll take a detour when I see you and won't find trouble with you. If I win, you have to pack your things and get out of the capital school. Meng Ting said. Then it's settled. You go to the challenge arena first, I'll go after you. Sima Yue took a step back and closed the door. You. Fatty Chu didn't even have time to speak before he was shut out by Sima Yue. Let's go, we'll wait for her at the challenge arena. Meng Ting glanced at Sima Yue's door proudly and left with her people. The courtyard finally quietened down. Bei Gongtang glanced at Fatty Chu, who was standing outside Sima Yue's door, and turned to close the door. Fatty Chu thought of the general's residence's fourth young master, Sima Yue, who asked him to help take care of Sima Yue. He didn't expect that in just half a day, Sima Yue would be in trouble. Chapter 23. What's wrong? Sima Yue asked as she tugged on his long ears. Yu, do you really want to compete with that white lotus? Little Roar said. That's right. She has already come to provoke me. How can I back down? Sima Yue casually threw Little Roar away. Little Roar drew a beautiful arc in the air. Seeing that he was about to hit the wall, he quickly twisted his body and flew back. Seeing that Sima Yue was looking for something in her spatial ring, he floated beside her and asked, Yu, what are you looking for? A weapon. Sima Yue said. I need to find a suitable weapon. The weapons in the spatial ring that my cheap father left behind are not suitable for me. You want a weapon? I saw that little spirit has a lot. Little Roar said. Really? Then let's go take a look. Sima Yue finished speaking and brought Little Roar into the spirit pearl. Once they entered, Little Spirit appeared in front of Sima Yue. Without waiting for her to speak, he said, Follow me. It seemed that he knew what she came in for. This is a weapon that was refined by the previous owner. Little Spirit brought them to a room filled with all kinds of weapons. How many previous owners do you have? Sima Yue asked after hearing Little Spirit's words. Anyway, there are a few. Little Spirit disappeared after he finished speaking. Sima Yue looked around the room and realized that most of the weapons here were high-grade saint weapons. Moreover, there were many divine weapons. It was difficult for her to find a low-key one. After looking through almost all the weapons here, she finally found a simple dagger in a corner. She picked up the dagger and weighed it in her hand before saying, I'll take this. After Sima Yue took the dagger and left, Little Spirit came out of the room again. Looking at the corner where the dagger was placed, he said with some surprise, She actually chose that weapon. It actually did not resist. I didn't expect that the previous owners did not gain its approval. But a girl who just started cultivating actually gained its attention. Is this the ape's dung? Or would she have a different future in the future? Sima Yue took the dagger out and removed the cover. She was dumbfounded. Ha ha ha. Little Roar looked at the way Sima Yue was behaving and held his stomach as he laughed out loud. You actually chose such a rusty dagger after such a long time. Sima Yue looked at the dagger in her hand helplessly. Although it felt good, why was the blade covered in rust except for the handle? How was she supposed to compete? At this time, a man ran to their courtyard and shouted, Sima Yue, Miss Ming asked me to ask if you don't want to compete. If you don't want to compete, quickly pack your things and get out of here. After saying that, the man scampered away. Although Meng Ting was not afraid of Sima Yue's grandfather, it did not mean that they were not afraid as well. If Sima Yue saw them, they would not have a good ending. Sima Yue heard the words outside and sighed, saying, Now that I don't even have time to polish it, I'll just use it. Although it doesn't look good, it seems to be quite compatible with my hand. Little Roar looked at the dagger in Sima Yue's hand with disdain and said, Wouldn't any other weapon be better than this? What do you know? The person and the weapon must have a certain degree of compatibility. If you randomly pick a weapon, who knows if it will hinder you at a crucial moment? Sima Yue put the dagger in the cover and said, Just like some weapons, different people will have different strengths. Not knowing if it was an illusion, Sima Yue felt that when she said this, the dagger in her hand seemed to move. All right, you've said this before, but you said that you haven't found a suitable weapon. Little Roar said. He looked at the dagger in Sima Yue's hand again, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness to look at it. In her past life, she did not find a suitable weapon. Could it be that she was waiting for this almost rusted dagger? This kind of reality made his heart feel stifled. Sima Yue looked at Little Roar's expression and felt 3 black lines appear on her forehead. Was he looking down on her weapon or her? What was with that sorrowful face? Do you want to go back? She asked. No, I want to watch you beat up by Lianhua from outside. Little Roar shook his head like a rattledrum. I haven't seen you beat up trash in a long time. I don't want to go back. All right then. Sima Yue placed the dagger on her waist and hugged Little Roar as she walked out the door. People who could not cultivate could not use the interspatial ring. So this dagger could not be placed in the interspatial ring. Hearing the door next door open, Bei Gong Tang, who was reading a book by the window, looked up and shook her head before continuing to read her book. Yue. Sima Yue had just walked out of the courtyard when she heard Wei Ziqi call out to her from behind. Ziqi, is something the matter? Nothing. Wei Ziqi smiled and said, I'll accompany you to the challenge arena. No matter what the result is, it's better if someone goes with you. Did he want to bring her back after he was defeated? Sima Yue thought. All right, let's go. The two of them walked towards the challenge arena, and on the way, they saw many people pointing at her and whispering. I thought that she had already dropped out of school. I didn't think that she would actually go to the freshman class. Her grandfather is the country's great general. If she wants to stay in the academy, it's just a matter of words. Really, people with this kind of status can only rely on the power behind them. It's too unfair to others. I heard that she challenged Miss Meng Ting this time. If she loses, she will have to leave the academy forever and never come back. Hurry up and make her leave. If this kind of person stays in the academy, it's just bringing shame to the academy. I also heard that she overestimated herself and said that if she wins, Miss Meng Ting will have to take a detour whenever she sees her. She's really thinking too much. I heard that Miss Meng Ting's temper is not very good. Since she provoked her, it would be strange if she didn't get beaten up badly this time. That Miss Meng Ting is already a level 5 spiritual knight at such a young age. Although her level is not very high, it's more than enough to deal with trash like her. That's right. Let's just wait for her to be chased out of the academy. When Sima Yue and Wei Ziqi passed by, those people thought that they couldn't hear them, so they spoke without restraint. Who would have thought that Sima Yue and Wei Ziqi could hear them clearly? Wei Ziqi was a little angry when he heard those words. However, when he saw Sima Yue, it was as if nothing had happened, and she leisurely walked towards the stage. You're not angry? Wei Ziqi asked. What's there to be angry about? Sima Yue said disapprovingly. A dog that bites will not bark. The best way to make those barking dogs shut up is to use strength to speak. When Wei Ziqi heard Sima Yue's words, he was stunned. Looking at her firm back, he couldn't help but think, is this kind of person really a trash? The battle arena should be here, right? Sima Yue came to a large door and raised her head to look at the words on the door. Even though she hadn't entered, she could already hear the sounds coming from inside. Chapter 24. They could not afford to offend Sima Yue, but if she was kicked out of the academy, everyone was willing to see her in a sorry state. Why hasn't that trash appeared yet? Even though they did not dare to call her trash in front of Sima Yue, but behind her back, they would definitely call her trash nonstop. Could that trash be scared? Someone asked. Possibly. After all, Miss Meng is a spiritual knight, and she is a complete trash. Facing such a challenge with her personality, it is very likely that she would run away. If that's the case, she wouldn't have the face to stay in the academy. How could she not have the face? That trash's face is thicker than the city walls, or else she wouldn't be pestering young Master Morong. This young Master Morong is really pitiful, to actually be liked by a guy. Every time I see his expression when he hears Sima Yue's name, I feel that he is really pitiful. Haha, this Sima Yue is going to be kicked out of the academy. Is young Master Morong and the rest here? They are here. They are sitting at the bottom row. Everyone looked towards the direction that the person was pointing at, and indeed, they saw Morong and Nalan Lan sitting in the middle of the first row. Morong, this Sima Yue won't not come, right? Nalan Lan sat beside Morongan, showing off her noble temperament. Even if she doesn't come, I have a way to make her disappear from the academy. Morongan said. I originally thought that she was expelled from the academy, but I didn't expect that she actually went to the freshman year. If she still dares to harass me, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Brother-in-law, don't worry, that trash definitely won't dare to harass you. Nalan Chi said with a smile. Little brother, what are you calling me? Nalan Lan was embarrassed by how Nalan Chi addressed Morong and haha. Since you two are already a couple, it's just that you haven't held a wedding yet. In my heart, Brother Morong is already my brother-in-law, isn't that right? Nalan Chi did not forget to drag Morong and into the water after he finished speaking. Even though Morong and did not say anything, he did not deny it. which meant that he agreed with Nalan Chi. Look, the trash is here. It was not known who shouted, but everyone's gaze was focused on the door as they saw Sima Yue and Wei Ziqi walking in. Meng Ting, who was standing in the middle of the stage, saw Sima Yue. She waved her hand, and the crowd quieted down. You made us wait for so long. I thought you wouldn't dare to come. Meng Ting looked at Sima Yue mockingly. Why would I do that? It's a rare opportunity to stop you from finding trouble with me in the past. How could I miss such a good opportunity? Sima Yue looked around at the spectator stands. Indeed, there were many people here. It seemed like there were many people who wanted to see her make a fool of herself. Since you're already here, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and come up, Meng Ting impatiently said. She could no longer tolerate wasting so much time with this kind of trash. I'll wait for you at the viewing platform, Wei Ziqi said. No need, I'll be done soon. Just wait for me here for a while, Sima Yue said. All right. Wei Ziqi nodded and stood below the stage, watching her walk up step by step. Meng Ting looked at Sima Yue and said with disdain, If I were you, I would admit defeat for the sake of my family's reputation. Why? Sima Yue asked. Because if you don't admit defeat, I'll beat you until you do. At that time, the general's residence's young master will be beaten so badly. The entire general's residence will become a joke. Meng Ting said. You're so confident that you can beat me? Sima Yue smiled and asked. Meng Ting puffed up her chest and raised her chin, saying confidently, Of course. Yu. At this time, Sima Yulu and Fatty Chu rushed in from outside. Seeing Sima Yue on the stage, Sima Yulu was scared out of his wits. Yu, why are you up there? Come down quickly. Sima Yulu shouted at Sima Yue. Yu, come down quickly, huff huff. Fatty Chu said while panting. Fourth brother, why are you here? Sima Yue saw the two of them panting, and guessed that Fatty Chu had gone to look for him. She didn't see Fatty Chu when she came out, and thought that he was in his room. She didn't expect that he had gone to get help for her. She would remember this friendship. Seeing the worried look in their eyes, she smiled and said, Fourth brother, once I'm on the stage, I can't come down unless I win or lose. Unless I admit defeat, I can't go down first. She had heard Wei Ziqi explain the rules on the way here. Then, Sima Yule wanted Sima Yue to admit defeat, so that she wouldn't be beaten up. Fourth brother. Sima Yue knew what Sima Yule was going to say and said, Even if it's for the sake of the Sima residence's reputation, I won't run away without a fight. Also, I won't let the Sima residence be humiliated because of me. Sima Yue's words stunned everyone present. She wouldn't let the Sima residence be humiliated because of her? Was this really Sima Yue? Yue. Sima Yue looked at the smile on Sima Yue's face and muttered her name. His fifth brother was really different now. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Sima Yue gave Sima Yulu a cheering hand sign before looking at Meng Ting and saying, Let's begin. Meng Ting looked at the people below and said to Sima Yue, Since you can't cultivate, I'll let you use your weapon. Now take out your weapon. Little Roar, who was in Wei Ziqi's embrace, jumped around excitedly when he heard Sima Yue say to begin. However, when he heard Meng Ting say to take out her weapon, he immediately fell back down and used his two paws to cover his eyes. Wei Ziqi felt the change in Little Roar's attitude and didn't know why he was so excited just now. However, he understood in the next second, because Sima Yue took out a dagger from her waist. The sheath on the dagger was very simple, as if it was just a piece of cloth. When she took out the dagger from the sheath, the whole crowd burst into laughter. Ha ha ha! Does the general's residence have no weapons? Or does it mean that you don't even have the money to buy a weapon? You're actually using a rusty dagger to fight against a spirit knight. What a joke! Sima Yue looked at the dagger in Sima Yue's hand and wanted to cover his eyes like Little Roar. This was really a terrible weapon. Meng Ting looked at the weapon Sima Yue took out and was stunned. She smiled and said, Sima Yue, it's fine if you don't have any spirit energy, but you're actually using this dagger to fight against me. Are you planning to use the rust on it to dissolve my spirit energy? Sima Yue also guessed that this would be the reaction she would get when she took out the dagger. However, She really liked the feel of the dagger and planned to use it as her own weapon in the future. Once she got back, she would just have to grind off the rust on it. Chapter 25. A referee announced the start of the battle, and Meng Ting began to condense her spiritual qi in her hands. Sima Yue did not move, and everyone thought that she was scared silly. After all, she was a waste in seeing spiritual qi. It was normal for her to be scared silly. Yue, why isn't she moving? Fatty Chu said anxiously. If she doesn't move, Meng Ting will finish condensing her spiritual qi. Wei Ziqi also frowned and could not understand why Sima Yue was not moving. There was no fear on her face. She was even smiling, a confident smile. Sima Yue was so nervous that he could not speak. Both his hands were clenched into fists, and he looked like he was ready to save her at any time. As long as Sima Yue was injured, he would immediately rush forward. Many people had already predicted that Sima Yue would be injured by the spiritual qi, and everyone had a victorious smile on their faces. However, very quickly their smiles froze on their faces. Just as Meng Ting's spirit energy was about to condense, Sima Yue's body suddenly moved and ran towards Meng Ting at an extremely fast speed. In just a few seconds, she had already appeared behind Meng Ting. Meng Ting saw Sima Yue running towards her and did not care about the fact that her spiritual qi was not fully condensed. She threw the spiritual qi ball at her. Just as it was about to hit Sima Yue, she moved her body strangely and dodged the spiritual qi ball. Bang! The spiritual qi ball landed on the stage and made a loud explosion sound. Meng Ting thought that she had hit Sima Yue. However, before she could celebrate, she felt a cold sensation on her neck. You lost. Sima Yue's voice came from behind her. Everyone who was present was stunned. Sima Yue actually ran behind Meng Ting. Her right hand went around her shoulder and placed the rusty dagger on the left side of her neck. How did you get behind me? Meng Ting said in surprise. That's how I got here. Sima Yue smiled unscrupulously. She stretched out her hand and touched her body, saying, although this dagger is a little rusty and probably a little blunt, as long as I use my strength, I can still cut your neck. Even if I can't cut your neck, I can still leave a scar on your face. After she finished speaking, she drew 2 scars on Meng Ting's face. Meng Ting felt the dagger on her face and screamed in fear. Ah! Don't cut my face. I admit defeat. Hearing Meng Ting admit defeat, the people in the stands couldn't believe their eyes. Miss Meng actually lost to a waste. Miss, how did she get behind Miss Yue? She's just taking advantage of the situation. If she really fought with Miss Meng, she definitely wouldn't be able to beat her. Yue. SA win. Sima Yue's win Yue's. Oh God. Sima Yue let go of Meng Ting and said, since you've admitted defeat, you have to keep your promise. Next time you see me, if you dare to find trouble. She did not finish her sentence, but her meaning was clear. Meng Ting glared at Sima Yue unwillingly as she watched her walk to the side of the stage, pick up her dagger, and casually walk down. But no matter how unwilling she was, there was nothing she could do. With so many people watching, if she did not keep her promise, she would become the target of everyone's disdain. Because in this world, people hated people who did not keep their promises. It settled so quickly. Fatty Chu saw Sima Yue walk down from the stage and walk towards them. He was still in a daze. What do you think? Sima Yue saw Fatty Chu's dazed look and stretched out her hand to poke his head. Sima Yue saw Sima Yue come down safely, and his heart finally relaxed. Once he relaxed, his anger flared up and he scolded her. How can you accept someone's challenge so casually? Do you know that you are responsible for your own life and death on the stage? What if an accident happens? 4 of you, aren't I fine? Sima Yue went up and pulled Sima Yuli's hand, saying, all right, let's talk when we get back. There are so many people here. You know how embarrassing it is. Sima Yue glared at her. Cough cough, let's go back first. Wei Ziqi saw that many people were looking at them strangely and suggested, let's go. On the way back, Sima Yue kept scolding Sima Yue, saying that she should not have ignored her own danger and accepted the challenge. If there was anything she needed to tell them, they would help her solve it. Hearing Sima Yuli's worried scolding, Sima Yue said seriously, "Fourth brother, I've already grown up. I can't always rely on you to protect me. You have given my family and family warmth, so I want to protect you. I want to become strong so that I can protect the people I want to protect. But if I'm afraid of this kind of challenge, I'll have given up on myself. How can a coward become strong?" "You, Sai, you've really grown up." Sima Yulu patted Sima Yue's shoulder. He couldn't tell how he felt when he heard this. Should he be happy that she had grown up? Or should he be sad that she was about to leave their protection? Sima Yue could feel the complex emotions in his heart. She pulled on his arm and placed her head on his shoulder, saying, "No matter what I look like, I'll always be your younger brother. You'll always be my older brothers. We'll always be a family." Sima Yulu patted Sima Yue's head, saying, We'll always be together." "Damn, can you guys not be so mushy?" Fatty Chu rubbed his arm as if he had goosebumps. Just now, he and Wei Ziqi were still feeling emotional over Sima Yue's words. When they turned around and saw the two of them snuggled up together, they immediately felt disgusted. "I say, don't tell me you've extended your evil claws to your older brothers." Sima Yue left Sima Yuli's body and kicked Fatty Chu, shouting, "Fatty Chu, go die!" Fatty Chu casually dodged Sima Yue's attack. Of course, this was also because Sima Yue didn't really want to attack him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to dodge with his skills. "Oomph, you dodged quickly." Sima Yue rubbed her stomach, saying, "I'm so hungry, let's go back and make some food." After they went back, Sima Yue made some simple dishes for everyone. After lunch, everyone went back. Sima Yue went back to her house and took out a whetstone from her spirit pearl, preparing to grind the rust off the dagger. But just as she took out the dagger and placed it on the whetstone, she heard a sharp cry and little spirits scolding. Chapter 26. Sima Yue looked at Little Roar, who had the same puzzled expression. That scream did not come from Little Roar either. Before she could think of anything else, the scene in front of her changed. She was already inside the spirit pearl, and Little Spirit was floating in front of her. "Didn't you say that I can only come in if I want to? How did you get me in?" Little Spirit rolled his eyes at Sima Yue and said, "Those are just normal spirit tools. As long as it's a slightly stronger spirit tool, you can still pull it in. For example, me." "Alright then." Sima Yue touched her nose and asked, "Why did you pull me in? What were you shouting just now?" "So stupid." Little Spirit felt that this Sima Yue was the stupidest master he had ever had. He really could not understand why he had such an affinity with her to be able to recognize her as his master. Sima Yue bent her index finger and lightly knocked on Little Spirit's head. She said unhappily, "Is there a spirit tool that looks down on its master? You brat, if you look down on me again, I'll roast you on fire." "I'm just speaking the truth." Little Spirit was not afraid of Sima Yue's threat. "Alright, quickly tell me the reason why you stopped me from pulling me in." Sima Yue finished speaking, and with a thought, a chair appeared in front of her. She had already discovered that in here, her willpower was God. As long as she thought about it, things from other places would instantly appear in front of her eyes. Little Spirit saw that Sima Yue understood this point so quickly and raised his eyebrows. "Aya, why are you keeping us in suspense? Hurry up and say it." Little Roar, who was waiting at the side, saw that Little Spirit was still not saying anything and urged him. Little Spirit did not answer them and landed on the whetstone. He stretched out his chubby little hand and poked at the dagger, saying, "How long are you going to pretend for?" The dagger did not move. "If you continue to pretend, I'll let her grind you," Little Spirit threatened. It seemed that this threat was quite effective. The dagger gently shook twice on the whetstone before it stood up. With a whoosh, it flew towards Little Spirit's head. Taking advantage of Little Spirit's unprepared state, the dagger heavily struck down. At the same time, a tender voice rang out, "If you dare to grind me, I'll chop you into pieces." Little Spirit's temper was ignited. He did not care about Sima Yue and the rest, and went to fight with the dagger. Sima Yue and Little Roar were stunned by the scene in front of them, as they stared blankly at the dagger and Little Spirit threatening each other. "This dagger can even talk. Little Roar said in shock. Do you know what's going on? Sima Yue asked. I don't know. Little Roar replied straightforwardly. Didn't you say that you are an ancient divine beast and know everything? Sima Yue turned her head and asked. I'm only a descendant of the ancient divine Roar. I'm not really an old monster that has lived for tens of millions of years. When I said that I know everything, it came from our inheritance. This fellow wasn't in the inheritance, so naturally, I wouldn't know. Little Roar rolled his eyes at Sima Yue and sighed in his heart at the same time. He had said these words to her before, but her soul was damaged and she could not remember it. After waiting for Little Spirit and the dagger to fight for a while, Sima Yue spoke out to stop them. I say, how long are you two going to fight for? Shouldn't you tell me what's going on? When the dagger heard Sima Yue's words, it flew over with a whoosh and stood in front of Sima Yue, saying, Little Yu, don't use the whetstone to grind me. Sima Yue stretched out her hand and poked the flying dagger, saying, There's so much rust on your body. If you don't grind it until it's smooth, how can you use it? Most importantly, how can a freaking dagger like you talk? Little Spirit, you answer. She suddenly raised her voice, causing Little Spirit and dagger to jump in fright. It's not an ordinary divine weapon, Little Spirit said. I can already tell. Get to the point, what is this fellow? Sima Yue said. I'm not a thing, I'm a supreme divine weapon. The dagger said. Not a thing. Sima Yue was shocked by the dagger's words, but at the same time, she was also shocked by the latter half of its sentence. You're a supreme divine weapon? The supreme divine weapon is obviously me. Little Spirit heard the dagger's words and immediately retorted. I'm the supreme divine weapon, you're stronger than you. The dagger said. I'm stronger. Little Spirit said. I'm stronger. Alright, you two stop arguing. Hurry up and tell me what's going on here. What are you? Sima Yue stopped the two of them from continuing to fight. If it wasn't for the fact that they were fighting, they wouldn't have stopped until tomorrow. Little Yu, I already said that I'm not a thing. The dagger said with some grievance. I'm a supreme divine weapon. Ling Long. Little Spirit heard the dagger saying that it was a supreme divine weapon and wanted to say something. But Sima Yue glared at him, and he swallowed his words. Ling Long, what kind of weapon is that? Sima Yue asked puzzledly. It's Ling Long. Ling Long said. I used to be a Ling Long divine stone that was born with the heaven and earth during the ancient times. The ores in my body were enough to refine a divine weapon. Later on, during the ancient times, there was a divine weapon refiner. He found me and refined me into a divine weapon. Before I was refined into a divine weapon, I already had consciousness. During the refining process, I was forced to separate and fuse together. The pain caused me to lose consciousness, and I even died. In the end, when I opened my eyes again, I had already become like this. Why did he refine you into a dagger? In this world, a dagger's attack power is not as good as other weapons. Sima Yue asked puzzledly. This is also not my original form, Ling Long said. It's just that I can only take on this form now. So you have other forms? Sima Yue was excited. Yes, since it's called a supreme divine weapon, I definitely have my own abilities. Exquisite's voice became proud as she said. I can transform into any weapon. Spears, broadswords, sharp swords, whatever I want to transform into, I can transform into. Other than this guy, I can copy any other weapon. This means that you're not as good as me, Little Spirit said proudly. Sima Yue looked at the dagger with shining eyes and said, Then you can transform into another weapon for me to see? This transformation also needs to be controlled by the owner. The dagger said, Little Yu, I really like you. Let me acknowledge you as my master. Acknowledge you as its master? This weapon needs to acknowledge its master? Sima Yue asked. Stupid. Without acknowledging you as its master, how could you enter the Spirit Pearl? Little Spirit said. Sima Yue glared at Little Spirit. This guy. Recently he always liked to scold her for being stupid. How is she stupid? It's just that she didn't understand this world very well. Kikik. The dagger's temper was not bad when it met Little Spirit. It patiently explained to Sima Yue. In this world, there needs to be a connection between a spirit weapon and its master. This connection will allow the two to become closer, and the spirit weapon will be able to unleash more power. Chapter 27. Seeing that you're covered in rust, I didn't expect you to be so sharp. Sima Yue said. She wanted to retract her hand, but found that her hand could not leave Ling Long's body. The situation was exactly the same as Little Spirit's last time. She felt as if all the blood in her body had been sucked dry by Ling Long. Her body became cold, and before she could think about whether she would be sucked dry, she had already fallen to the ground. You. Little Roar saw that Sima Yue had fainted and quickly flew over. Don't worry, she just lost a lot of blood. She won't die. Little Spirit said. After Ling Long had sucked enough blood, she fell beside Sima Yue and gave a satisfied burp. Following that, the rust on the dagger fell off, and the entire dagger was so clean that it could be used as a mirror. The edge of the dagger was suffused with a cold light, and one could tell that it was incomparably sharp. Not only that, after the rust had completely fallen off, the dagger instantly became transparent. Little Roar and Little Spirit could only see Sima Yue's blood flowing back and forth inside the dagger, staining every part of the dagger with traces of blood. At the same time, a ray of red light shot up to the sky, almost illuminating the entire interior of the spirit pearl in red. Luckily, this was inside the spirit pearl. If it was outside, this movement would definitely attract a lot of trouble. Little Spirit and Little Roar were blinded by the dazzling red light. When the red light dissipated, they opened their eyes and saw a little doll sitting on Sima Yue's body, smiling happily. The little doll's voice was very soft, as if it was a newborn doll. Little doll? Little Roar and Little Spirit were stunned. How can you be a little doll? Little Spirit pointed at Ling Long. And you're a girl. Although Ling Long had stayed in the spirit pearl for tens of millions of years, she had always had the appearance of a dagger. He never thought that Ling Long would actually be a little doll. Why can't I become a little doll? Aren't you a little doll yourself? Ling Long turned her back to Little Spirit and looked at Sima Yue's pale face, asking, When will Master wake up? Cute girl. Little Roar flew in front of Ling Long and said, Little sister Ling Long, don't worry. You will wake up soon. Sister, your sister. Ling Long stood up and stepped on Little Roar's face, saying, When Big Sister was formed, you didn't even know which corner of the world you were in yet to reincarnate. How dare you call me little sister? If you want to call me that, you have to call me Sister Lingling. Little Roar felt as if his face was about to be stomped into a meat patty. He extended his little paw and slapped Ling Long's leg away, saying in a fawning manner, Does Sister Ling Long's leg hurt? Do you want me to blow on it for you? With your soft skin and tender flesh, can you hurt me? Ling Long was very happy to be called Big Sister Ling Long. This little critter was quite cute. She then flew back to Sima Yue and sat down. She supported her chin with her hands and looked at the unconscious Sima Yue worriedly. Little Roar could tell that this Ling Long definitely had a fiery temper. If she didn't like someone, she would definitely shout and kill. It was no wonder that people like Little Spirit could not stand her and quarrel with her for so many years. However, she seemed to like Sima Yue very much, even before they had recognized her as their master. But why? Not only Little Roar could not figure it out, even Little Spirit could not figure it out. He and Ling Long had been together for so many years. He saw her go out again and again to find her master. Every time she returned disappointed. In the end, she was too lazy to go out and find her master, and just stayed in the spirit pearl. Why would a person who was so picky with her master like Sima Yue, who had just become a spiritual knight so much? Little Spirit unknowingly asked his own doubts. Ling Long smiled and said, Because she understands me. But for an offensive divine weapon like you, don't you like strong people? She has just started cultivating. Little Spirit said, She will become strong. Ling Long said with certainty. After she finished speaking, she stretched out her short little hand and lightly poked Sima Yue's face. Sima Yue once again saw a scene that she had not seen for a long time. A thick fire burned a luxurious mansion into ashes. This was not her apartment on Earth, but an ancient building. On the main door hung a signboard that said Shiman Residence. The flames quickly spread, and the magnificent signboard was engulfed in an instant. Seeing the entire mansion engulfed in flames, Sima Yuyue's heart felt as if it was pierced by countless sharp blades. A figure appeared from the flames and laughed towards her. Shiman Yue, look at your home. It has all become a pile of ashes. Ha ha ha. What qualifications do you have to fight with me now? Sima Yue could not see her face clearly, but she remembered that voice. That voice was incomparably sharp and pierced her heart. Why did she have such a dream again? Was this the past life that little Roar said she had forgotten? But she remembered that in her past life on Earth, she was blown up by the organization's second in command. Could it be that she died on Earth and transmigrated to this world and lived another life? She became Shiman Yue and took in little Roar. In the end, her family was exterminated and she was killed. She did not know why, but in her second transmigration, she became this love-struck trash young lady. And just like what little Roar said, her soul was injured before she died, so she forgot the memories of this life. And little Roar was the direct evidence that she had forgotten her memories, and not a hallucination. Yue, if you can live on, you must not take revenge for us. Living a good life is what we want to see the most. A warm voice sounded from the sea of flames, but hearing this voice, Sima Yuyue's heart hurt even more. She could not help but call out, "Mother!" The word mother made her dry eyes wet and tears fell down uncontrollably. She seemed to see a beautiful face, gently pressed against her face. She smiled and said, "Look, this is our daughter. She looks so much like you, just like the moon in the sky." "Then we'll call her Yue." A male voice replied, "Okay girl, from now on you'll be called Shiman Yue. I'm your mother, so you must call me mother first." Sima Yue stretched out her hand, wanting to touch that beautiful face, but before she could touch her, the figure disappeared in the flames. "Mother." Ling Long sat on Sima Yue's chest. Seeing the tears at the corner of her eyes, she said with heartache, "Why is little Yue crying? Little Yue is so sad, her heart is hurting." Ling Long also wants to cry, sob sob. Little Roar and Little Spirit also felt the pain in Sima Yue's heart. Little Spirit did not know why, but Little Roar guessed that she must have seen some memories of her past life. "Little Yue, don't cry, we're here with you." Ling Long crawled to Sima Yue's head and wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. Chapter 28. Sima Yue wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and turned her head to look at the little doll beside her. She asked hesitantly, "Ling Long." "Ha, little you recognized me." Ling Long clapped her hands and said, "How did you become a little doll? And so small?" Sima Yue sat up and held Ling Long in her hands. She realized that she was only the size of 2 fists. "I'm a weapon spirit just like Little Spirit. Of course I can transform into a human." Ling Long giggled and said, "But I'm stronger than that fellow. I can transform with my body but he can't. He can only stay in the spirit pearl. So from this point, I'm the supreme artifact." "Alright, both of you are very strong." Sima Yue saw that Little Spirit was about to explode, and quickly comforted him. "Alright, little Yu, what did you dream of just now? Let's hurry up. You're so heartbroken." "I'm also heartbroken," Ling Long asked. "Nothing much, just some memories from the past," Sima Yue said. "Maybe it's because I can cultivate now, so my memories are slowly awakening." Seeing that Sima Yue didn't want to talk about it, everyone didn't ask. Sima Yue got up and saw that she was still at the place where she fainted. The corner of her mouth twitched and said, "Can't you guys let me lie on the bed or something? At least that would be more comfortable." "I'm too lazy to change places," Little Spirit said confidently. His body flashed and disappeared. "I'm also too lazy to argue with you. Otherwise, I'll really be angered to death." Sima Yue didn't look at Little Spirit. She looked at Ling Long in her hands and asked, "What weapons can you transform into now?" "I don't know either." Ling Long shook her head and said, "Then let's try," Sima Yue said. "Alright." After speaking, Ling Long transformed into a dagger and said, "Master, let's begin." Sima Yue thought of a few weapons in her mind. Other than the first sword, she didn't succeed in the others. After a while, Sima Yue looked at the pot in front of her helplessly and chose to give up. Little Spirit, who had disappeared for a while, came out. When he saw the pot in Sima Yue's hands, he held his stomach and laughed. Ha ha ha! What kind of divine weapon is this? Are you planning to turn into a pot and cook for us all? It was an accident. After saying that, Exquisite left Sima Yue's hand and flew into the air, spinning rapidly. When it stopped, the pot was gone, and a spatula appeared in front of everyone. Sima Yue's initial anticipation slowly turned into disappointment. When she saw the shovel, she was already in despair. It turned out that she had met yet another scammer. He said he was very powerful, but the end result was too beautiful. She couldn't bear to look at it. Seeing Sima Yue's expression, Exquisite turned into a dagger and said, "Little Yaya, don't be disappointed. Although I can transform into a lot of weapons, they are all related to your current strength. The stronger you are, the more powerful the weapons I can transform into." In other words, with her current strength, she could only transform into pots and pans. Sima Yue felt the disappointment in Exquisite's words and took it over, saying, "I will turn you into a very powerful weapon. Anyway, I don't need any weapons now. When my strength increases, we will become stronger together." I believe in you, little Yaya," Exquisite said with certainty. "Me too. I want to become stronger together." Little Roar came over and said. Exquisite turned into a little doll and kicked Little Roar's face again, roaring, "Little Yaya and I are encouraging each other. What are you doing here?" Sima Yue looked at Exquisite, who had turned into a fiery girl in an instant, and couldn't tell which one was her. When she came out of the spirit pearl, it was already sunset. Luckily, there were no classes in the afternoon, otherwise she would have been caught by Feng Zhixing. Thinking of Feng Zhixing, she thought of Little Spirit's reminder. Did he really know that she could cultivate? But why didn't he expose her in front of everyone? He clearly knew that she was trash, but he was still willing to accept her into the class. Was it really because of the principal and her grandfather? If he had any ulterior motives towards her, she didn't feel any malice from him. It wasn't that he hid it deeply, but she was naturally sensitive to people. She had a keen sense of malice and kindness. This was something she had never missed before. Because of this, there were a few times when she was carrying out missions with the people from the organization, and she was able to survive their betrayal. Therefore, she could feel that Feng Zhixing didn't have any malice towards her. At this moment, in the principal's office, Feng Zhixing, who had just returned from outside, was called over. "Do you know what happened to the students in your class?" The old principal looked at Feng Zhixing and asked, "Are you talking about the challenge stage?" "I heard about it," Feng Zhixing calmly replied. "What do you think?" the old principal asked. "Nothing much. As long as they don't kill anyone, anything is fine." Feng Zhixing leaned on the chair and played with his fingernails, saying, "Besides, life and death on the challenge stage is their own responsibility. If something really happens, the two families won't be able to find me." The old principal was almost choked by Feng Zhixing's words, saying, "I'm asking about Sima Yue's victory over Meng Ting. So what if she won?" Feng Zhixing said, "There's nothing strange about it. Meng Ting is practicing at home behind closed doors. This Sima Yue is said to often fight with people in the capital. She probably won using her combat experience." When the old principal heard that Sima Yue had won against Meng Ting, he thought that she might be able to cultivate. Otherwise, why would this arrogant guy be willing to accept a good-for-nothing? But now, listening to his words, it wasn't unreasonable. After all, during the competition, Sima Yue didn't use any spiritual power. Feng Zhixing saw the old principal's eyes darting around, and guessed what he was thinking. But he didn't intend to say anything. "Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Tomorrow, I'll take them to choose some beast eggs, so I have to go back and prepare. Choosing beast eggs is a very important matter for students, so you have to prepare well. Have all the beast eggs been replenished?" the old principal asked. "They've all arrived today. I think they've already been sent in," Feng Zhixing replied. "Then you can go and prepare," the old principal said. "Remember to be careful. Don't let them enter that dead egg's house. Otherwise, you'll waste your chance. Since it's a dead egg, why don't you clear it out? Feng Jixing asked, puzzled. It's been passed down since a long time ago. The school's rule is not to touch that egg. As for why, I don't know. But there were a few times in the past when students entered that house and came out unconscious. So I think that even though it's a dead egg, there must be something special about it. That's why it was passed down. I understand. Feng Jixing finished speaking and left. At night, when He Qiuji was walking on campus, a figure blocked her way. Are you going to choose some eggs tomorrow? The person asked. Yes. He Qiuji replied. Very good. Help me with something, and I'll give you a good reward. The person said. What is it? Tell me first. Help me get rid of Sima Yue. The person said. Meng Ting has the support of the Meng family. What kind of power do you have to protect her? If she finds out that you instigated Meng Ting to challenge her, then... Chapter 29. Fatty Chu did not need to shout as he smelled the aroma, and ran over. Not long after, Wei Ziqi also ran over. Go and see if Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei are here. If they are, invite them over. Sima Yue instructed Fatty Chu as she cooked. Okay. Fatty Chu sneaked a bite of the dish before leaving. Wei Ziqi originally thought that Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei were not in the house. Even if they were, they would not come over. He did not expect that the two of them would come. The two of you actually came over. How rare. Bei Gongtang glanced at Wei Ziqi and did not say anything. She washed her hands and sat at the table. Ouyang Fei replied to Wei Ziqi. Fatty Chu said that the food she made was better than the ones in the canteen. Sima Yue placed the dishes on the table. Little Roar had already finished eating and had gone outside to digest. We are all from the same courtyard, so we should spend more time together. It's better to eat together like this. Fatty Chu said. Do you know how to cook? Bei Gongtang asked coldly. I don't. Fatty Chu said and smiled. Don't we have Yue now? Sima Yue rolled her eyes at Fatty Chu, but did not object. We are going to choose a beast egg tomorrow. Ouyang Fei suddenly said. Choose a beast egg? What's that? Sima Yue asked as it was the first time she heard of this. You know that spirit masters can contract spirit beasts, right? Fatty Chu said. Sima Yue nodded. Generally speaking, a spirit master can only contract a limited number of spirit beasts. The stronger they are, the more spirit beasts they can contract. For spirit masters like us, we can only contract one spirit beast. However, if it's a beast egg, it's different. Wei Ziqi explained. Some students do not have good family backgrounds and did not have spirit beasts before. When they choose a beast egg, they can choose their own spirit beasts. If they have spirit beasts before, because it's a beast egg, it won't consume too much energy so they can contract it. Sima Yue nodded her head in understanding, saying, It's the Academy's spirit beasts that are given to students. You can say that. However, there is still a need to pay attention to this beast egg selection. Ouyang Fei said. So particular? There are high and low-grade spirit beast eggs inside. Although there aren't many high-grade spirit beast eggs, if we can find them, the spirit beast that comes out in the future will be even more powerful. Sima Yue bit her chopsticks and said, Why are they all beast eggs? What about the mammals? Mammals are also locked in eggs, but those eggs are illusory. Wei Ziqi said. I've heard that the place where the eggs are kept is very mystical. No matter what kind of animal it is, in your eyes, it's just an egg. Furthermore, all the eggs look the same. When you choose the egg, if it's a mammal, the egg will disappear. That should be an illusion, right? Sima Yue said. Why are you hallucinating? All the spirit beasts in front of you have turned into eggs. When Bei Gongtang heard Sima Yue's words, she raised her head and looked at her. No matter what, tomorrow is a day worth looking forward to. Fatty Chu said. You all should have your own contracted spirit beasts, right? What are you looking forward to? Sima Yue said. That's not the same. I've heard that there are spirit beast eggs with the blood of divine beasts. If we can get those spirit beasts, we'll be powerful in the future, ha ha. Fatty Chu said proudly. You can keep daydreaming. Sima Yue said. However, even if we can't get a spirit beast with the blood of divine beasts, As long as it's chosen by the academy, it'll be rare or powerful. Wei Ziqi said. Is that so? Then I'm really looking forward to it. The next day, Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei also joined the breakfast team. Luckily, Little Spirit had already prepared everything, so she only needed to do the cooking. After breakfast, they went to the classroom. Once Sima Yue entered the classroom, she felt all kinds of gazes. Some were filled with disdain, some were surprised, some were curious, and some were angry. It seemed that the matter of her winning against Meng Ting yesterday had caused quite a stir in the class. Although Meng Ting was still angry when she saw her, she was willing to accept her loss. She did not intend to find trouble with her, and could only stare daggers at her. Sima Yue and Bei Gongtang sat down at the back of the classroom and ignored those people. It was just that Bei Gongtang was cold and Sima Yue was too lazy to care. Very quickly, Feng Jixing came to the classroom. Seeing that everyone was present, he said, "You all should know what we are going to do today. Before we go, I'll tell you what you need to pay attention to. The place to choose the spirit beast eggs is at the back mountain of the academy. There are 4 doors there, and you can enter 3 of them. After you enter, you will see illusions and many spirit beast eggs will appear. Every spirit beast egg has the same appearance, so you can only follow your feelings and choose the one you want the most. Once you choose, you will come out from there. Now follow me to choose the spirit beast eggs." Everyone in the classroom stood up and left. He Qiuji glared at Sima Yue when she walked past her. When she saw that Sima Yue turned around, He Qiuji quickly retracted her gaze and walked away as if nothing had happened. Feng Jixing brought them to the back mountain of the academy. When they arrived, the people from the other classes were already waiting there, and a few teachers were chatting together. Sima Yue noticed that when the teachers looked at Feng Jixing, there was a hint of respect in their eyes. "Is everyone here?" Feng Jixing walked over and asked. "Yes, everyone else is here. Your class is the last to arrive," a teacher said. "Then let's go in." Feng Jixing ignored the sarcasm in the teacher's words and said, "This time, there were not many spirit masters in the academy. There were only about 1,000 people. Excluding the special classes, which were the alchemists and beast tamers, there were about 900 people like them in the normal classes. Because the cave was relatively small and could only accommodate 300 to 400 people, they divided the students into 3 groups to enter. When the students found out, they all expressed that it was unfair. If the people who entered first chose the high-level spirit beast, then the people who entered later would not be able to get it. Everyone, please calm down." A teacher waved his hand to signal for everyone to be quiet and said, "The spirit beast eggs inside are all random, so the probability of entering first is the same. You don't have to feel that it is unfair. Alright, the first batch." According to the order of arrival, they had already divided the students into 3 groups. Feng Jixing's group was the last to enter, so they were the last to enter. When Sima Yue came to the back of the mountain, she had a feeling that something was calling out to her, knocking into her heart one by one. That voice seemed to be saying, "Come here, come here." She looked around and did not find anything strange. When she listened carefully, the voice disappeared. Chapter 30. Sima Yue had seen her family's library before, so she was not surprised. However, it was the first time for the people around her to see such a scene, so they were all shocked. She looked around the entire cave, but she did not see any so-called door. She only saw 3 white halos on the ground that were emitting a faint white light. "Alright, everyone be quiet," a teacher said loudly. The echo of his voice reverberated in the cave, and everyone quietened down. "Teacher, we don't see any door," a student said. "The 3 teleportation portals in front of you are the doors. After you enter, they will bring you to the house where the eggs are kept. Remember, once you choose one of the eggs, you will be ejected. There is no second chance, so you must grasp the opportunity well. Don't act recklessly. You must choose the one that you are most sensitive to," another teacher said. "Yes, you can only go to the 3 portals in front of you. You cannot go to the 4th one. If you go to the 4th portal and something happens, you will have to bear the consequences." The first teacher said. Teacher, are all portals the same? They are all the same. This is a random portal, so the probability of being teleported to that place is the same. Alright, go ahead. Don't push. Once the teacher said that, everyone rushed towards the portal. Although the teacher said that the probability was the same, they still felt that the probability of being the first to enter was different. Some of the students disappeared after entering the portal. When the others saw this, they rushed over even more crazily. Sima Yue was forced to move forward in the crowd and was pushed to the innermost part. The innermost portal was the one that the teachers had emphasized not to go to. Everyone thought that there were no eggs inside, so they did not go there. That portal was not activated, but Sima Yue looked at it. In the chaos, she seemed to see two flashes of light from the portal. Come, come. Sima Yue heard the call again, and was stunned for a moment. At this moment, someone pushed her from behind, and she stood on the fourth teleportation array. At this moment, the portal emitted a dazzling red light. She turned around in shock, and saw Hichioji's eyes and face filled with hatred. You! Before she could say another word, she disappeared into the teleportation array. The teachers who were watching the students fight at the entrance panicked when they saw the red light. They shouted, "Who went to the fourth teleportation array just now?" Only half of the students were left in the cave. They looked at each other, wondering what had happened to the teachers. Teacher, I think it's Class A Sima Yue. Someone said. Sima Yue? I got it. Please continue. That teacher said. Since it was that trash, there was nothing to worry about. In order to prevent such a thing from happening again, the students immediately quieted down. They entered the teleportation circle in an orderly manner and disappeared from the cave. Feng Zhixing had been outside the cave the whole time. When he saw the red light flashing inside, he knew that it was the light of the fourth transmission array. He suddenly had a bad feeling. He came to the entrance of the cave and asked, "Who just entered the fourth teleportation formation?" "It's your class's Sima Yue," a teacher said. "She must have been accidentally squeezed in when it was crowded." What? Feng Zhixing's heart skipped a beat. Isn't that? Teacher Feng. Once a student is teleported in, they won't come out until they find the beast egg. There's no use panicking now. That's right. Although the school has never opened the fourth teleportation formation, there shouldn't be any problems, right? No problems? How could that be? Yesterday, the old principal had told him that the students who went in before were all delirious. Their meridians were severely damaged, and their cultivation was destroyed. This was called no problems? Actually, what the old principal did not say was that those students did not come out after going in, and stayed in there forever. Teacher Feng, you're a new teacher, so you don't know much about this. We've been here for so many years, so we're very clear about this situation. There shouldn't be any problems. A teacher said, those were just rumors. That student won't have any problems. I want to go in too. Feng Zhixing did not listen to the other teacher's comforting words at all. He went straight to the fourth teleportation formation. But no matter how much spirit chi he injected, the teleportation formation did not move at all. It did not have any intention of activating. At this time, most of the students had already gone in. When the teachers saw Feng Zhixing going to the teleportation formation, they were all shocked. But when they saw that the teleportation formation did not react, they relaxed. Teacher Feng, this teleportation formation is very strange. Not everyone can use it. You should just wait here. Feng Zhixing came out and looked at the teleportation formation for a while. He turned and left the cave, heading straight to the old principal's office. Although this teleportation formation looked similar to the other three, there were still some differences. Perhaps the old principal knew how to go in. But the old principal's answer dashed his hopes. That teleportation formation has been there since the school was founded. At first, it was the school's forbidden area. Later on, we opened the other 3 teleportation formations there, and saw the beast egg room. That teleportation formation can only be used by people it recognizes. What's that? I don't know either. The instructions that were passed down from the past did not explain clearly. It is said that there are other things inside other than the dead eggs. That is why the students who go in have those kinds of situations. The old principal said. Then is there no other way to go in? Feng Zhixing asked anxiously, as he placed his hands on the table. The old principal shook his head helplessly. Feng Zhixing fell back onto the chair. The old principal looked at Feng Zhixing suspiciously. Since when did this guy have such an anxious look? In his impression, this guy was a cold-blooded and heartless person. I'll go over there and wait. Feng Zhixing calmed himself down and stood up to leave. When he arrived at the back of the mountain, there were already students coming out. They were holding large and small beast eggs in their hands. He looked at the fourth teleportation formation worriedly. Yue, you have to come out safely. After Sima Yue disappeared from the teleportation formation, she felt dizzy. Before she could think, she fell onto the soft ground. Damn you. She got up from the ground. Luckily, there were thick leaves on the ground. Otherwise, she would have fallen like a dog. Damn, you dare to trick me. Don't let me out. Otherwise, I will play you to death. Chapter 31. She walked in front of a bamboo and stretched out her hand to touch it. Her fingertips felt cold, as if she had touched a large ice cube. It's so cold. She felt that her fingers were frozen to the point that she could no longer feel them. So she quickly retracted her hand. She walked around and realized that this forest was extremely big. She had already walked for half an hour, but she was still walking around in circles. What kind of place is this? Didn't they say that this was an illusion? Why do these bamboo rocks feel so real? She sat down on a rock and beat her tired legs. This body is too weak. I've only walked for a short while, and I'm already so tired. This is far worse than my previous life. If I were to fight with others in the future, this would be very disadvantageous. Looks like I still need to train in the future. After resting for a while, she continued to walk around the forest. Not to mention the beast eggs, she didn't even see a living thing. Damn, what kind of place is this? Didn't they say that we can leave if we find the beast eggs? There isn't even an egg here. How am I supposed to find it? Sima Yue kicked the protruding bamboo leaves in front of her. She didn't expect that she would kick something out from under the leaves, and it rolled around twice. A skull. Looking at the thing that had flown in front of her, Sima Yue felt a chill run down her spine. At this moment, she realized that the place she was standing on was somewhat obstructive. She lowered her head to take a look. Because she had used too much strength, the bamboo leaves under her feet had been kicked away. Other than the skull that was kicked away, there were many other bones under her feet. She took 2 steps back and got down from the skeleton. She removed all the leaves and looked at the skeleton in its entirety. There are no scars on the bones. Looks like this person did not encounter any external danger before he died. She looked carefully and thought that she had already walked half around in the forest. She thought to herself, could it be that this person died of starvation or dehydration? Master, this is an array. Little Spirit's voice sounded. Array? I heard that there was an array here that made people see that all the beast eggs were the same. Sima Yue said. You said that it was an illusion array. This array is not an illusion array, but a maze array. Little Spirit said. Maze array? What kind of formation is that? Sima Yue asked. It's a kind of array formation that makes people lose their minds. Little Spirit said. You were also confused by the array formation just now, so you became more and more anxious. You didn't even hear me when I called you several times just now. Did you just call me? Since I didn't hear it before, why am I hearing it now? Is the formation broken? Sima Yue realized that she had indeed become more and more impulsive, and was not as calm as she used to be. It just so happens that the bone that you kicked stimulated your nerves, allowing your brain to clear up for a moment. Only then was I able to take advantage of it. Little Spirit said, if this formation is so scary, why would the Academy set up such a formation? Sima Yue asked in confusion. Now is not the time for you to think about this. If you want to go out, you must break this array. Otherwise, you will have to stay inside forever. Little Spirit roared. Then this person should have been trapped here until his death. Sima Yue said. Little Spirit, since you know about this array, then do you know how to break it? I'm not an array master. How would I know how to break it? Little Spirit said. If you're not an array master, then how do you know that this is a maze array? Sima Yue asked. Do all people who know how to eat know how to cook? Little Spirit said disdainfully. Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen pigs run. You don't know how to break this array. And I don't know either. Then what do we do? Salad. I know what to do, okay? Little Roar interrupted. Sima Yue called Little Roar out and asked. What do we do? You used to have an older brother, who was a very powerful array master. I've heard him say that there are 2 ways to break this array. One is to break it naturally, and the other is to break it backwards. Naturally? Backwards. Yes, naturally is to know the rules of the array, and break it step by step. This way, the array will not be destroyed, and the people inside the array will not be hurt. Little Roar said. This method won't work. None of us know how to break arrays. Tell me the next one. Sima Yue said. The backwards method is very simple. Little Roar said. Your older brother once said that every array has an array core. As long as we find the array core and remove it, the array will be broken. This method is very simple. Sima Yue looked around, trying to find where the array core was. I haven't finished speaking yet. Little Roar said. Although this backwards method is simple, once the array core is destroyed, the array will collapse. The effect of every array's collapse is different. Some will shatter like ice, and will not be a threat to the people inside the array. Some would be like an explosion, injuring, or even killing the people inside the array formation. This mainly depends on how the person who set up the array set it up. Damn, that's dangerous. Sima Yue shouted. Yes, that's why most people will not choose the second method. Little Roar said. Sima Yue thought for a while and said, if it really explodes, I can't do anything about it. If I can't do it normally, I can only do it backwards. If I do it backwards, I will have a chance to live. If I don't, I will die. That seems to be the case. Then let's look for the array core together. Little Roar flew to Sima Yue's head and laid down, looking around with his round eyes. The array core is usually not very eye-catching. For such a big array, to find the array core is not like finding a needle in a haystack, but it is not that easy either. Little Spirit said. We still have to find it. Sima Yue shrugged. This is the only way now. Anyway, you have food and drink there. If we can't get out, we won't die. We have time to slowly waste with it. Little Spirit did not say anything. Sima Yue and Little Roar started to search the array. When she was hungry, she would cook in the spirit pearl. When she was thirsty, she would drink water from the spirit pearl. When she was sleepy, she would sleep in the spirit pearl. Originally, she had planned to sleep in the forest, but Little Spirit said that the consciousness of those who fell asleep would be weaker. If she was bewitched by the array again, she might not be able to wake up again. She did not know how long she had been walking in the forest. The forest was always dark with a little bit of green light. Although the sky was not dark, she had already eaten 7 meals and slept once. Every 2 days would be 3 days. I can't find the array core at all. Unable to find the array core, Little Roar shrunk his body and laid on Sima Yue's shoulder. We will find it eventually. Sima Yue sighed. Other than bamboo, there was only bamboo. There were also 2 skeletons that they found while searching. Continuing to search blindly is not a solution. She stopped and said, since it is the array core, there must be a certain pattern or special place. Let's observe it carefully first. Chapter 32. This place is too strange. There's no sun. Where is this light coming from? Little Roar came to the side of the bamboo and saw that the light from the bamboo had dyed his pure white fur green, as he asked suspiciously, Light? Sima Yue heard Little Roar's words and had a flash of inspiration. These bamboos were all emitting light, which meant that these bamboos were all the same. If she could find one that did not emit light, it might be the eye of the array. Ha, Little Roar, let's go find the bamboo that doesn't emit light. She stood up and patted the leaves off her body as she spoke to Little Roar behind her. Bamboo that doesn't emit light? Why are we looking for that? Little Roar flew over and asked. That could be the eye of the array. Sima Yue said. In any case, just follow me and see. Okay. Hence, the two of them walked around the forest again. This time, they were looking for bamboo that did not emit light. Their goal became clear in an instant. Master, I feel it. Little Spirit, who had been quiet all this while, suddenly spoke up. Little Spirit, what do you feel? Sima Yue stopped and asked. There's the aura of a spirit stone here. Little Spirit said. Spirit stone, is it a stone like you? Sima Yue asked. How can that thing be compared to me? I am a sacred spirit stone, the only one in the world. I can refine it into a spirit pearl that can contain the world. Those dregs can at most be used to nourish the soul, they cannot nourish life. Little Spirit said proudly. Then why are you so excited? Are you stupid? Since this is a maze, although it is the effect of the array, the eye of the array must be something that is useful to the soul. This way, the effect of the array can be maximized. Little Spirit said. That's why. That spirit stone is very likely to be the eye of the array. Sima Yue said somewhat excitedly. At least you're not that stupid. Little Spirit said. Then you can feel its aura. Can you find its exact location? Sima Yue asked. If it was outside the array, I could find it directly. But this is inside the array. I can only feel that it is nearby, within a radius of 50 meters. You can look for it yourself. After Little Spirit finished speaking, he did not speak again. Sima Yue looked around. The bamboo here was not very dense. Compared to other places, it could be described as sparse. She carefully observed each bamboo, and saw that each bamboo seemed to be glowing. None of them were like what she thought they were. Could it be that my deduction is wrong? Sima Yue rubbed her chin, doubting her own deduction. Maybe the array's core isn't found in the bamboo. Little Roar said. Not bamboo? That's right. If the eye of the array is really a spirit stone, then it should still look like a stone. Little Roar said. That's possible. Let's take a look at the stones here. Sima Yue hugged Little Roar. The human and beast looked at the small stones inch by inch, but there was not a single stone to be seen. Looking at the only big rock here, Sima Yue placed her last gaze on it. Could it be this? She walked closer to the stone and circled it twice. She felt that this stone was different from the one she saw before. She stretched out her hand to touch it. It had the same cold feeling as the bamboo. Is it this? Little Roar flew over and asked. No. Sima Yue said. If it's the array's core, then it should be something real. It shouldn't be as cold as the bamboo. Then the array's core isn't here either? Little Roar said with disappointment. No, it's here. Sima Yue said with certainty. Can you kick this stone away? Piece of cake. Little Roar flew to the side of the stone. With a light kick, the huge stone was kicked away. Sima Yue looked at the bottom of the stone that was kicked away. It was a small stone that was the size of a baby's fist. Is it this? Sima Yue squatted down and looked at the black stone, saying, Is it possible to just remove this? I don't know if there will be an explosion. I don't care. I'll just treat it as a last resort. After saying that, she threw the little white ball into the spirit pearl. Then, she took a deep breath and stretched out her hand to grab the spirit stone. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. The quiet bamboo forest suddenly had a gust of wind. The ground seemed to be about to split open as it trembled nonstop. Pa! The bamboo forest was blown apart by the gust of wind. Every single one of them made a crackling sound. Sima Yue could not open her eyes because of the gust of wind. She used the hand that was holding the stone in front of her to block it, but it was still unable to block the force of the wind. Rumble! The ground suddenly split open, and the crack quickly became bigger. All the fallen leaves and bamboos sank into it. What the? When she fell into the crack, Sima Yue grabbed the stone in her hand tightly in an attempt to reduce the panic in her heart. Blood seeped into the stone. Sima Yue felt a heart-wrenching pain spread from her hand to her limbs and bones, causing her to faint. Before she fainted, she only had one thought. If the ground closed up again, would she be crushed into meat paste? Her consciousness was in a mess. She did not know how long she had been wandering in the darkness. When she slowly regained her consciousness and opened her eyes, She realized that she was in a valley. Below her was a thick meadow. Her clothes were clean, as if the soil on her body did not exist when the ground split open. She sat up and rubbed her aching head. She wondered if what she had experienced was just a dream. Hiss! She felt a sharp pain in her palm. She opened her hand and saw that there were a few wounds on her palm. The wounds had not completely healed. Because of the movement just now, they had split open again. Seems like it was not a dream. She took out a knife and cut off a part of her outer robe. She wrapped her hand and tied a knot with her mouth and left hand. After doing all this, she began to observe the valley. Just like the bamboo forest before, there were no living creatures. Not even a shadow of a beast egg could be seen. The difference was that the forest before was filled with bamboo. But there were many different types of flowers and trees here. Could it be that I came from that array to this array? Sima Yue asked doubtfully. I don't think so. I don't feel the aura of an array. Little Spirit said. There's no array. Didn't you say that there was at least an illusion array here? There isn't. This is the real world. Little Spirit said with certainty. Then how do I go back? This isn't an array. If I find the beast egg, I will naturally be transported out. Sima Yue said with a headache. All right, do you know where the spirit stone is? It's with me. Little Spirit said with a bad tone. Sima Yue felt that something was wrong and asked. What's wrong? There's something wrong with this thing. I'll tell you when you get out. Little Spirit said. Then I'll find a way out first. Sima Yue said. Chapter 33. Do you hear any sound? Sima Yue asked. There aren't any living creatures here. How could there be any sound? Little Roar listened attentively and did not hear any sound. Yes. After Sima Yue finished speaking, she quickly ran forward and stopped in front of a cave. Yu, how did you know that there was a cave here? Little Roar followed Sima Yue and asked when he saw the dark cave. I don't know. That sound told me to come here. Sima Yue said. What's inside? Little Roar asked. I don't know. We'll know once we go in. Sima Yue found a piece of wood and threw a fireball at it. After the wood was lit up, she walked in with Little Roar. The deeper they went, the higher the temperature of the cave, as if it was going to roast them. Yu, it's so hot here. Little Roar could not stand it. He who usually did not sweat was now drenched in sweat. Shimin Yue saw Little Roar's situation and quickly kept him in the spirit pearl and walked forward alone. Because the temperature was too high, the wood was quickly burnt. Fortunately, before the fire was completely extinguished, she walked to the end and entered the stone room at the end. She found a night pearl in the ring that her cheapskate father gave her. After holding the night pearl in her hand, the stone room became much brighter. When she came in, she leaned against the wall, and the night pearl lit up the stone wall beside her. Only then did she see clearly that the stone wall was actually red. Even from a distance, she could feel the scorching heat coming from the stone wall. What is this place? The fire spiritual energy is so dense. If I were to cultivate here, I'm afraid that I would increase many levels. Sima Yue closed her eyes and meditated for a while. She felt that there were red dots all around her, as if they were going to envelop her. It's actually denser than here. The spirit pearl said. Master, don't be in a hurry to go out. If you cultivate here, you'll definitely be able to improve by leaps and bounds. Let's start after I finish looking through the stone room. Sima Yue was also excited. She might even become an expert after she finished cultivating. She approached the center of the stone room. Previously, when she was at the entrance of the stone room, she saw a blurry shadow in the center. Because there wasn't enough light, she couldn't see clearly what it was. Beast egg. When Sima Yue was an arm's length away from the egg, it suddenly emitted a red light. It was so bright that she quickly covered her eyes with her arms. When the dazzling light dissipated, she put down her arm and saw that the egg was emitting a faint red light that illuminated the entire stone room, allowing her to see the environment clearly. Other than her and the egg, there was nothing else in the stone room. The egg was almost as tall as her chest, so she probably wouldn't be able to hug it even if she wrapped her arms around it. There was a flame-like pattern on the beast egg, which fascinated her. She couldn't help but touch it. The cloth that was tied to her right hand was too hot, so she removed it in the tunnel. When her wound came into contact with the egg, her entire hand seemed to be sucked onto the egg shell. The temperature of the egg increased sharply after it sucked Sima Yue's hand. Sima Yue could clearly feel that the flesh on her palm was burnt. She could even smell the smell of barbecued meat. She wanted to retract her hand, but the strength in her body seemed to have disappeared along with her blood. She could only stand there and watch as her blood flowed out of her palm and onto the body of the beast egg. It formed a strange rune and then merged into the egg. With your blood accept my body. We are connected by blood. We will live and die together. The light of the contract will shine on heaven and earth. Human, are you willing to form a contract with me? A deep voice was heard, waking Sima Yue up instantly. The intense pain made her tremble and her teeth chattered. When she heard the oppressive voice, she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Are you willing? When Sima Yue didn't reply, the voice asked again. I am willing. She squeezed the words out from between her teeth. Even so, it took all her strength. As soon as her voice fell, a pentagonal pattern suddenly appeared under her feet. The pattern emitted a silvery white light that wrapped her and the beast egg together. She felt that the pain in her body was gone. Her body felt as if it was swimming in warm water, and she felt a wave of comfort. The pentagram slowly shrunk and finally turned into 2 rays of white light. One ray flashed into her chest, and the other flew into the egg. The contract was established. She touched her chest, where she could feel the connection with the egg in front of her. She was actually contracted by the egg. Before she could think about it, she felt the spiritual power flowing in her body. The power in her body suddenly increased, and a small star appeared under her feet. That was the symbol of her spiritual power level. Then, in front of her stunned eyes, the small star turned from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 5 until all 9 stars appeared. Then, the 9 stars slowly came together and fused together. Then they slowly separated and formed a moon and a star. The small star shook, and there seemed to be another star beside it that wanted to come out. However, it stopped in the end. Spiritual Master, Level 1 Spiritual Master. Sima Yue looked at the level under her feet. She didn't recover until the light disappeared. She had heard that contracting a contract would increase one's power. However, she didn't expect that contracting a beast egg, being contracted by a beast egg, would increase her level by a whole level. This advancement is like drinking water. She couldn't help but exclaim. You, that's because the beast you contracted this time isn't an ordinary beast. Little Roar said from the spirit pearl. The stronger the contract, the higher the bloodline of the spirit beast, the more power a spiritual master can obtain. So strange. Little Spirit said. What's wrong? When you came in, I didn't feel any signs of life. That means that the beast egg should be dead. Little Spirit said doubtfully. But when your blood flowed onto it, it seemed to come alive. Really? Sima Yue felt the connection with the beast egg and confirmed that it was a living egg. Moreover, wasn't the sound of the contract just now made by it? I'm sure. Little Spirit said. This beast egg doesn't look like a newly hatched beast egg. If it wasn't a dead egg, I think you should be able to increase your level. At this time, the beast egg suddenly moved. When Sima Yue thought that it was going to break out of its shell, the beast egg rushed over and drilled into her body. Woo! Chapter 34. However, it was different from the feeling of her palm being burnt. Her body was not burnt at all. That flame seemed to be a part of her body, as it continued to burn every part of her body. The impurities that were attached to her meridians were all burned clean. Her previously narrow meridians were all cleared. Not only were the obstructions no longer there, she could clearly feel that her meridians had become wider. Her meridians becoming wider meant that she would be able to absorb more spiritual qi when she cultivated in the future. Then her cultivation speed would be even faster. Other than her meridians, her bones were also burned to become more durable. Even her flesh and blood were much stronger than before. She fell to the ground. The pain on her body made her unable to help but roll on the ground, trying to use this method to relieve the pain. However, No matter how painful it was, she clenched her teeth and resolutely did not allow herself to make a single sound. Time passed by minute. Her body was covered by a black mud-like substance again and again. She felt the burning sensation on her body again and again. From the unbearable pain at the beginning to the numbness at the end, she did not know how long she had endured. Will you be all right? Little Roar worriedly looked at the scene outside. She'll be fine. She'll be able to endure it. Little Spirit said emotionally. He had always thought that Sima Yue was just a little doll who had just started cultivating. He did not expect her to have such a determined personality. They could feel the pain on her body through their contract, so they naturally knew what kind of torture she was going through. However, this time, he was shocked by her determined gaze. A person who had such a gaze at this time would definitely not be an ordinary person in the future. Ha! I told you that little Yu is not bad. Ling Long laid on Little Roar's body with her legs crossed and her hands behind her head. She was not worried at all. People who could understand her soul would definitely not be affected by this pain. Other than them, the spirit stone that was casually thrown to the side also emitted a faint light towards the scene outside. Little Spirit saw the spirit stone, and his eyes darkened. Sima Yue did not know how much time had passed. When she felt that she could not hold on any longer, the flames on her body slowly weakened and finally disappeared. Good gee! She moved her fingers and her joints made a crisp sound. She moved her body again, and the joints on her body were also a little stiff. Fortunately, after moving a few more times, they returned to normal. She laid on the ground and gasped for breath. The experience just now made her feel as if she had walked through the sea of flames in hell. The Nirvana flame has burned your body. It will be of great help to your cultivation in the future. The voice of the contract from before. Nirvana flame. Who are you? Why are you able to initiate a contract with me? Sima Yu heard that voice and asked a series of questions. I am called Crimson. You don't need to ask about the rest now. When the time comes, you will naturally know, Qi Yan said. Its voice was a little low, but it was quite magnetic. Don't we have a contract? Since we are connected, why can't we tell each other? Sima Yu said. Knowing too much now won't do you any good. Crimson Flame said. Your body is too bad. I use my life flame to refine and transform you. In the future, your cultivation speed will be much faster. Look at your Dantian. I can't see inside yet. Sima Yue said. You can. Try it. Crimson Flame said. Could it be that after he had modified her body, she could see inside? Sima Yue thought to herself. But she still followed Crimson Flame's instructions and sat cross-legged. She closed her eyes and used her consciousness to try to size up her body. She did not know if she did not try, but when she tried, she was shocked. She could actually see the internal structure of her body. Every meridian, every bone, every blood vessel, she could see it clearly. Go to the Dantian, Crimson Flame said. Okay. She continued to let her consciousness wander around her body and quickly reached her Dantian. The first thing that caught her eyes was the reservoir that the Spirit Pearl had prepared for her. Little Spirit said that it was the Spirit Reservoir. The Spirit Reservoir was divided into several sections, and the first layer of each section was filled to the brim. Among them, the red one had the most. It could be seen that her fire attribute spiritual energy was the most powerful. Her consciousness turned into a small person and landed on the Spirit Reservoir. She saw a cylindrical space in the middle. There was no spiritual energy in it, only a small red bead that was spinning non-stop. She looked at the small bead and asked curiously, What is this? This was formed by your body's modification. It can also be said that it was formed by the fusion of the thing in your body and mine. Crimson Flame replied, Look up. The small person raised her head and saw the red spiritual energy flowing in continuously from her meridians and gathered in the red spirit reservoir. This is fire attribute spiritual energy? Sima Yue said doubtfully. But I'm not cultivating. This is the use of the bead. Crimson Flame said. As long as it spins, it will automatically absorb the spiritual energy around you. So even if you're not cultivating, the spiritual energy will still come here. So good, Sima Yue exclaimed happily. Wasn't this equivalent to having a high-level cheat? Even if she wasn't cultivating, she could still increase her spiritual energy. That way, she would have more time to do her own things. Because she was too excited, her consciousness popped out of her body, and her inner vision ended. Your current strength is too weak. You have to seize the time to cultivate. You can't be lazy. This place has accumulated the fire attribute that I have released for millions of years. You can cultivate here. I will be in a deep sleep later on. If there's nothing, don't wake me up. Crimson Flame did not say anything after he finished speaking. Sima Yue sensed for a moment. This guy had actually fallen asleep. If you're going to sleep like this, you should at least tell me what kind of spirit beast you are, right? Sima Yue said as she pursed her lips. Cough cough. Although there's no one here, you should put on your clothes first. Little Roar reminded her. Sima Yue then realized that her clothes had been burnt to ashes in the fire just now. She hurriedly took out a set of men's clothes from her space ring and put it on. After putting on her clothes, she then had the mind to think about other things. Since there was such a rich fire attribute spiritual energy here, she definitely could not waste it. After confirming that there was nothing else here, she went to the place where the red flame beast egg was, and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. At the same time, at the back mountain of the Capital Institute, 3 days had passed since the end of the beast egg selection. All the students carried their beast eggs out on the first and second day, except for Sima Yue. Feng Zhixing was still waiting in the cave. He looked at the fourth teleportation array, hoping that it would light up. How long do you plan to wait here? The old principal came to the cave and asked Feng Zhixing. Until she comes back. Feng Zhixing looked at the old principal and turned his attention back to the array. The old principal looked at the child of the wind and suddenly asked, "What is your relationship with her?" Chapter 35. Who told you to come? The old principal asked. Principal, you know about the things in that world. I know that you have a good relationship with General Sima. Anyway, I won't harm him, and the Sima clan as well. Feng Zhixing said. Furthermore, the rules restrict me, so I can't casually make a move here. I'm not worried about what you'll do. The old principal sighed and said, I'm worried about you. If something happens to that child, it won't. Feng Zhixing said, his child won't lose her life so easily. Feng Zhixing said it with certainty, but he didn't know that the original Sima Yue was already dead. Now another soul was living in her body. AI, you're a teacher. You can't keep guarding here. The old principal said. When it's time for class, I'll go to class. Feng Zhixing said. All right, principal, do you know where this teleportation array leads to? I don't know. Those who come out can't say where it leads to, but it seems like everyone goes to different places. The old principal said. But they can't say exactly where they go. I see. Feng Zhixing was a little disappointed. You should go back. If she comes back from another place, you won't be able to see her from here. The old principal said. I'll go to the general's residence later and tell Sima about this. I'll go with you. Feng Zhixing suddenly thought of something and said to the principal. The principal nodded, and the two of them went to the general's residence. Sima Lai was shocked when he heard that there was no news of Sima Yue. He wanted to go out and look for her, but he didn't know where the teleportation array led to. General Sima, you should have Yue's life tablet, right? Feng Zhixing asked. Sima Lai heard Feng Zhixing's words and his face darkened. He asked, how do you know? Don't worry about where I found out. Go and see if her life tablet is intact. Feng Zhixing said anxiously. Sima Lai saw the worry on Feng Zhixing's face and did not continue to pursue this issue. With a thought, a black jade box appeared in his hand. He opened the black jade box, and there was a piece of white jade inside. There were 2 red circles in the jade, as if it was human blood. This is Yue's life tablet. It is in perfect condition, which means that she is still alive. Sima Lai said as he looked at the white jade. Hearing Sima Lai's words, Feng Zhixing's suspended heart finally settled down. It is precisely because her life jade did not have any movement that I did not sense any danger from her. Sima Lai said as he put the life jade back into the space ring. He looked at Feng Zhixing and said, Now can you tell me how you knew about Yoyua's life tablet? Feng Jixing said. Of course I know, because I was the one who helped her mother complete this life jade. Then you are. Feng Jixing looked at Feng Jixing in shock. Yes. Feng Jixing said. Don't tell Yue about this. I naturally understand. Sima Lai said. Since this is the case, we will return to the school first. The old principal said. Okay. If there is any movement from that child, please let me know. Sima Lai said. We will. After the old principal and Feng Jixing left, Sima Yuqi and the others came to Sima Lai's house and said, Grandfather, is fifth bro in any danger? Right now, we only know that his life is not in danger. Sima Lai said. However, we can't tell what his situation is just from the life tablet. Let's go find fifth bro. Sima Yuran said. Come back. Sima Lai called out to them, saying, You all know about the teleportation array in the school. Nobody knows where Yue has been teleported to. The Yilin continent is so big. Where are you going to find her? But we can't just wait like this. Sima Yuming said. Apart from waiting, there's nothing else we can do. Sima Lai said. However, fifth bro's life tablet is still intact, so we can roughly know his situation. Sima Yuran said. Fifth bro must have encountered something and can't come back for a while. Who knows, he might come back in a few days. Sigh. In the days that followed, Feng Jixing would come every few days to ask about Sima Yuyua's life tablet. Everyone was used to checking to see if the jade was intact every morning and night. Although they knew that she was still alive, there were rumors in the school that Sima Yue had accidentally entered the fourth teleportation array and was sent to an unknown place to die. When this news spread, some people in the school were happy while others were worried. Those who were happy were of course those who hated Sima Yue. The happiest ones were Morongen and the Nailan clansmen. Other than her roommates in Fengxing, there was also Meng Ting who was worried. Time passed day by day, and Sima Yue did not return for a month. Apart from those who were worried about her, everyone else seemed to have thought that she was dead. Ichioji's worried heart gradually calmed down. Just as everyone was worried about Sima Yu, she was in the valley, concentrating on cultivating. Because she had reached the level of a spirit master, she no longer needed to eat, so she cultivated for a few days. Using a saying from her previous life, a few days passed in the blink of an eye. When she opened her eyes again, the light of advancement appeared under her feet. After the advancement, she was already a fifth-ranked spirit master. The spirit energy in the cave had almost been depleted. Sima Yu glanced at her surroundings. She didn't expect that the fire attribute spirit energy in this insignificant cave would be so dense. It allowed her to rise 4 ranks in a short while. It's not just because of the environment. Little Spirit said. Previously, when you contracted with the spirit beast egg, some of the energy was condensed in your body. It didn't let you advance by too much, but now it's slowly being released. With this environment, you advanced by 4 ranks. So it was because of that spirit beast egg. To be able to increase her strength by so much, what kind of spirit beast was it exactly? When you were cultivating, I went outside to take a look. Outside this valley is a mountain range. This mountain range seems to be very big. Is it a very big mountain range? Sima Yue searched her mind. The Beichen Kingdom had a very big mountain range. One was the Puluo mountain range in the south, and the other was the Baili mountain range in the west. Comparing the two mountain ranges, the Puluo mountain range was slightly smaller, while the Baili mountain range was slightly bigger. Furthermore, the spirit beasts that lived in the mountain range were much stronger. I don't know if we are in the Baili mountain range or the Puluo mountain range. She stood up and patted the dust off her clothes. Let's go out of the valley and catch a spirit beast to ask. Little Roar said. Yes, that's the only thing we can do now. Sima Yue carried Little Roar out of the cave and walked along the valley. Very quickly, they exited and entered a valley. Before she had the time to check out her surroundings, she heard Little Roar say, Yu, there's someone by the river. Chapter 36. Yu, I can still hear his breathing. Little Roar looked at Sima Yue with disdain. Sigh. Ever since she was reborn and lost her memories, she had become more and more stupid. He lost so much blood. If he was on Earth, he would have died a long time ago. Sima Yue said. Little Roar seemed to be interested in this person. Before Sima Yue could walk to the front, he had already run out of her embrace and flew in front of that person. Yu, this person is really good looking. Little Roar saw that person's face and cried out in surprise. Sima Yue walked over and saw his face clearly. He had a handsome face with a straight nose and sexy lips. His eyes were closed, so she didn't know if he was good looking. However, his long eyelashes were very attractive. He was really a handsome man. However, she had seen many men like this in her previous life. Although they weren't as handsome as him, she was already immune to it. She pursed her lips and said, he really is better looking than me. Everyone who is better looking than me is an enemy. Let's go. Yu, aren't you going to save him? Little Roar saw that Sima Yue had only stared blankly at that person's face for a while before leaving. So he said in surprise, why should I save him? Sima Yue glanced at that person and said, you just came back from here. But he wasn't here when you came back. Why is he here when we came out? Don't you think it's strange? Maybe he was injured by a spirit beast when I came back. So he fainted when he came here. Little Roar said. Sima Yue took 2 steps forward and picked up Little Roar, who was drooling in front of that person, saying, Little Roar, don't think that I don't know that under your pure appearance, you have a perverted heart. You are an auspicious beast, not a pervert. I'm not a pervert. Little Roar was held by Sima Yue by the neck, and his 4 short legs kicked in the air. Yu, if we save him, we might know where this is. It's better to ask a human than a spirit beast. Spirit beasts only know where this is, but humans know how to leave this place. Sima Yue's footsteps suddenly stopped. She pondered over Little Roar's words and said, what you said makes sense. Let's save him first. Returning to the shore, she flipped the man over and saw a long wound on his stomach. It seemed to have been caused by the claws of some spirit beast. The wound stretched from the left side of his chest to the right side of his abdomen. It's a miracle that he's still alive after suffering such heavy injuries and losing so much blood. She looked at the man's wounds and sighed. Yu, can he still be saved? Little Roar floated to the side and asked. He's still alive, Sima Yue said. Then, she rummaged through her cheapskate father's ring and found the pill he had left behind. She took one out and fed it to him. After she finished eating, she saw that the jade bottle had the words 4th grade written on it. In the entire Dongqing kingdom, this was a rare treasure that could be counted on one's fingers. When she thought about how she had given a level 4 medicinal pill to someone she didn't even know, her heart ached. Is this enough? Little Roar asked. This is a level 4 medicinal pill. Sima Yue said. When I was injured, the general's residence didn't even have a level 4 medicinal pill. Grandfather had to find that great master sure to exchange for 2 level 3 medicinal pills. Speaking of Sima Lai, she started to miss him. I don't know how grandfather is now. I haven't heard from him for so long. He and my brothers must be worried to death. You don't worry. When we wake him up, we'll know where he is and how to get back. Little Roar comforted her. Sigh. We can only wait for him to wake up. Sima Yue sighed and said, your body can grow bigger, right? Yes. Little Roar nodded. Then grow bigger and carry him back to the cave. Sima Yue said. Well, what? You actually want me to carry him? Little Roar cried out in surprise. Didn't you say that you wanted to save him? Sima Yue dug her ears and said, he's so big and the cave is so far away. If I were to drag him back, I'm afraid that he would be dead before we even reach the cave. Furthermore, I'm giving you a chance to have intimate contact with a beautiful man. Isn't that good? I'm an auspicious beast with morals and a bottom line. Little Roar retorted. Then are you going to carry him or not? Sima Yue asked. I'll carry him. Little White Ball decided that for the beautiful man, it didn't care about morals and a bottom line anymore. It trembled in the air, and its originally small body slowly grew bigger, until it was as tall as a person. Sima Yue carried the man onto Little Roar's back, and climbed up herself. Little Roar flew them back to the cave. When they reached the cave, Sima Yue was kind enough to take out an old bed from the spirit pearl. Although the bed was so old that it would sway when a person sat on it, it was better to cover it with a blanket than to just throw him on the ground. After making the bed, she carefully placed him on the bed and took out a pair of scissors that Ling Long changed into, cutting his clothes to shreds. Yu, are you trying to be a hooligan? Little Roar turned back into his small form and flew to the side. When he saw Sima Yue cutting his clothes, he drooped his ears and covered his eyes with his claws. He didn't cover his eyes in the right position, and half of his eyes were exposed. Sima Yue heard Little Roar's words and said, I used to have a habit. Either I don't save him, or I try my best to save him. Although he ate a pill, his wounds still need to be cleaned. So it's like this. I thought you were going to be a hooligan and take advantage of him. Little Roar stared straight at the body of the person on the bed. His mouth was wide open, and his eyes were almost filled with red hearts. Sima Yue really couldn't bear to see its lecherous look. She grabbed its neck and flung it backwards, throwing it out. Without Little Roar messing around at the side, Sima Yue's attention was even more focused. She took out water and a towel from the spirit pearl and wiped the bloodstains on his body. After that, she carefully cleaned the wound. In order to prevent the person on the bed from waking up from the pain, she tried her best to make her actions as gentle as possible. The man on the bed woke up briefly when she bent over to clean his wounds. He opened his hazy eyes and saw a pair of crystal clear eyes focused on his wounds. Was he saved? He sensed the condition of his body and confirmed that he was saved. Then he fainted again. Sima Yue happened to squat down to wash the towel when the man woke up, so she didn't notice. When she finished cleaning the stains on his body, she found that his wounds were already forming scabs. Although I've seen the effects of this pill a few times, I'm still shocked every time I see it. She reached out to touch the scars. When you have time, you should look for a few books on pills and learn how to refine pills. When she finished cleaning, there was only the big bed left in the cave. She thought about how she hadn't slept on the bed recently because she was cultivating. Now that she saw the bed, she felt a little sleepy. Chapter 37. Woo! He touched his forehead out of habit, but it affected the wounds on his body. The pain on his body made him slowly regain his consciousness. Master, you're awake. Fire Qilan's voice came from the contract space. Wu Lingyu replied faintly, and began to think about what happened before he fainted. He remembered that he followed the clues to the Pu Luo mountain range to find that thing. But not long after he arrived, he fainted again. Once that happened, his soul would be very weak, and he would not be able to summon Fire Qilan. At that time he met a sacred beast. If it was any other time, a sacred beast like a sacred beast would not be worth his attention. But he did not expect that the fainting would happen so early this time, almost causing him to lose his life. Master, the time of your fainting is getting closer and closer. We must find that thing as soon as possible. Fire Qilan said worriedly. I understand. Wu Lingyu nodded. I remember that I was by the river before I fainted. How did I end up in the cave? Master, didn't you notice that there was someone lying next to you? Fire Qilan said in amusement. Wu Lingyu was shocked. He did not even notice that there was someone lying next to him. If she wanted to kill him, wouldn't it be very easy for her to do so? Master, don't panic, she saved you. Fire Qilan said. Even if his soul was weak during this time, and the cave was dark, he should not have not noticed that there was someone lying next to him. He remembered that he seemed to have woken up once in a daze, and saw a pair of bright eyes. Was the person beside him her? She almost blended into the darkness, and her presence was very low. It is normal that Master did not notice her. Fire Qilan comforted his master. Wu Lingyu took out a pill from his space ring. The pill's grade was higher than the one that Sima Yue gave him. He ate the pill, and used the spiritual energy in his body to catalyze the pill. When he felt that his soul was more comfortable, he sat up and took out a shining pearl. He wanted to look at the person lying next to him, but he did not expect to meet a pair of dark eyes. You're awake. Sima Yue sat up and looked at Wu Lingyu. Although she was asleep, as an assassin, She was very sensitive to the movements around her. When Wu Lingyu took the pill, she woke up. It's you. Wu Lingyu was surprised to see Sima Yue. You know me? Sima Yue climbed down from the bed and stood beside the bed to size up Wu Lingyu. Not only did this guy have an enchanting face, but he also had a pair of seductive eyes. When he closed his eyes, he looked very pure, but his eyes showed that he was not as pure as he looked. I guess so. Wu Lingyu nodded. That time when he went to the capital of the Dongqing country, he just happened to see her crippling a man on the street. At that time, he and the Fire Qilin had a discussion about it, so he still had some impression of her. Sima Yue thought that he was talking about her reputation as a trash, and said, "It seems that this prince's reputation is quite good. However, since this prince saved you, is there any reward?" Wu Lingyu found it funny. This girl was obviously a girl, but she kept calling him prince. Although she wore an illusion ring and hid her gender, she could not hide from the Fire Qilin's nose. "What reward do you want?" he asked softly. "Any reward is fine. It would be best if it's gold or silver coins or even gems." Sima Yue did not expect him to give her anything specific, so she just casually said two things. "All right. I can give you a generous reward, but I have a condition." Wu Lingyu said. "What condition?" Sima Yue frowned. This guy actually wanted to talk about conditions with her. "You have to stay here with me for a while." Wu Lingyu said. "When the time comes, I will definitely give you a generous reward." "Why?" Sima Yue did not understand. "Before my injuries are healed, I cannot leave this place." Wu Lingyu said. "Do you know where this is?" Sima Yue asked. Puluo mountain range to the south of Dongqing country. It is thousands of miles away from the capital. Wu Lingyu said. It really was Puluo mountain range, Sima Yue thought to herself. She did not expect that the teleportation array would actually send her here. "But I want to go back. I have been out for so long. My grandfather must be very worried about me." Sima Yue thought for a while and said, "If that's the case, then I can't give you a reward." Wu Lingyu had a whatever look on his face. "I originally wanted to give you a rank 1 advancement pill, but since you don't want it, then forget it." "Advancement pill?" "Yes." Wu Lingyu said. "I know that General Sima hasn't advanced in a long time, and I just happen to have 2 advancement pills. I was thinking that if you accompanied me for a period of time, I would give you the pills. If you... I will stay," Sima Yue said. "But I hope that what you said is true. Otherwise, I can save you, but I can also kill you." Wu Lingyu's lips curled up slightly, saying, "All right." This girl's tone was not small. From the looks of it, she was not the trash of the legends. Thinking about the rumors of her being a trash, he asked, "There are spirit beasts everywhere here. How did you end up here?" "The Academy's teleportation array sent me here." Sima Yue said, "Your pearl is not bad, it's quite bright. Take out a few more." After speaking, she turned around and left. "Where are you going?" "To prepare dinner." Sima Yue went outside just to cover up. She did not want Wu Lingyu to know that she had a space that could raise living things. "Master, why did you let a trash protect you?" Fire Qilin said in the contract space. "Now that you're awake, I can come out. Let me bring you back to the temple to rest." "We won't return to the temple for now. Since we're already here, how can we leave without any news?" Wu Lingyu said. "But you don't have to use the advancement pills in exchange for a trash to protect you, right?" Fire Qilin said. "Don't you think that she has some secrets?" Wu Lingyu said. "A trash who heard about the Puluo mountain range and was not afraid or worried at all. Moreover, the two of us already heard that she went missing in the capital a few months ago. That means that she has been living here for 2 months. Aren't you curious how she managed to survive in such a dangerous place?" "This does make one curious," Fire Qilin said. "But this is not like your personality. You're so cold-blooded and rarely interested in other people's matters." "What cold-blooded?" Wu Lingyu was dissatisfied with Fire Qilin's evaluation of himself, saying, "In any case, I'm still the holy son of the world's temple. I represent the holy temple, the holy radiance that captivates tens of thousands of disciples." Fire Qilin could not take it anymore and interrupted him. That's you in front of others. Don't confuse your disguise with your true nature. Chapter 38. Not long after, Sima Yue brought in a roasted chicken. Seeing that Wu Lingyu had indeed brought out a few more pieces, the cave was now as bright as day. She took out a table and a plate from her spatial ring. Placing the roasted chicken on the plate, she tore it into a few pieces and asked, "Do you want some?" She had thought about it. She could not hide the fact that she could cultivate from him, so she did not hide it. As long as she did not bring out any living creatures, he would not know that she had a spirit pearl. "You can use the spatial ring," Wu Lingyu said without any surprise. "As long as you are a spiritual knight, you can use it." Sima Yue said, "Rumor has it that you can't cultivate. You can't even sense spiritual energy." Wu Lingyu said, "You already said that it's a rumor." Sima Yue said, "You there, do you want to eat? If you don't, I won't care about you anymore." Wu Lingyu, hearing her call you there, he said his name. "Wu Lingyu, do you want to eat?" Sima Yue asked again. Wu Lingyu usually would not eat such simple things, but seeing Sima Yue's bright eyes, he nodded his head and said, "Okay." Sima Yue pushed the table to the side of the bed, so that he could sit up and eat. Then, she gave him some of the roasted chicken, and ate the rest of it happily. Wu Lingyu took a bite of the chicken wing. Originally, he did not have any thoughts about the roasted chicken, but he did not expect that the chicken would be so delicious after being roasted by her. It made him unconsciously take a second bite. "I didn't expect you to be able to make such delicious food." When he met something delicious, he was not stingy with his praise. There are many things that you can't imagine. Sima Yue saw little Roar running in. She took out the roasted chicken that she had prepared for him from the spatial ring and placed it on the table. "You is so bad. You didn't even call me when you were eating." Little Roar could not speak, so he could only complain to her through the contract. "Didn't I tell you to come back?" Sima Yue poked Little Roar's head. "I heard you chatting with a male spirit beast just now and you were so happy. Why didn't I notice your lecherous nature before?" "Since when did I?" Little Roar weakly protested, but even his own voice did not believe it. "Your contracted beast?" Wu Lingyu looked at Little Roar and asked. Sima Yue glanced at Wu Lingyu and said, "Yes, a useless and perverted beast." "Squeak squeak, who's useless?" "She's pretty cute," Wu Lingyu said. "Thank you for your compliment." Sima Yue finished her chicken and stood up to leave. "No spirit beasts will come here, so you can rest assured and recuperate here." With that she left the cave. Little Roar hugged the roasted chicken, looked at Wu Lingyu, and then looked at the cave entrance. After hesitating for a while, he still hugged the roasted chicken and went out. Although he liked handsome men, his master was still more important. Wu Lingyu saw Little Roar reluctantly leave, and could not help but laugh. After confirming that Little Roar and the rest were far away, Fire Qilin came out of the contract space and turned into his human form. His fiery red clothes were very ostentatious. He came to the table and sat down, grabbed a chicken drumstick and gnawed on it, saying, "Master, this girl's roasted food is quite delicious. Why are you eating my drumstick?" Wu Lingyu stared at Fire Qilin. "You don't like to eat these anyway." Fire Qilin finished the drumstick in a few bites and wanted to take more, but was slapped away by Wu Lingyu and threw a chicken head at him. "Can you tell what kind of spirit beast that is beside her is?" he asked. Fire Qilin took the chance when he was not paying attention and snatched another piece of chicken, saying, "That guy, it's an ancient divine beast, Shen Ho." "Why would an ancient divine beast appear in this kind of lower realm?" Wu Lingyu asked. "I don't know," Fire Qilin said. "And it seems that because it was injured, its strength was greatly reduced. I reckon that if this power went up, it would quickly be eaten by the fierce beasts, especially when it has such a weak master." When he saw Little Roar, he was also shocked. Divine beasts like Shen Ho were originally very few in number, and could be said to be as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. It was very rare to encounter one in the upper realm, so it was even more strange for it to appear in such a barren lower realm. The trash in other people's eyes. Not only can she cultivate, she even contracted an ancient divine beast. She really makes people more and more curious. Wu Lingyu said with a smile. Fire Qilin saw Wu Lingyu's smile and mourned for Sima Yue for 2 minutes in his heart. Every time he smiled like this, it was when the devil in his heart was causing trouble. Those who were remembered by him did not have a good ending. Where's my roasted chicken? When Wu Lingyu came back to his senses, he discovered that other than the chicken wing in his hand that he had not finished eating, there was only a pile of chicken bones left on the table. Fire Qilin, who had finished eating the roasted chicken, said seriously, Master, let me go and investigate that thing. I have a soul contract with you, so if there's a whereabouts of that thing, I will be able to sense it. During this period of time, let second brother protect you. Wu Lingyu threw the chicken bones on the table and said indifferently, I don't need you to worry about me. Then I'll go. Fire Qilin finished speaking and left the cave, flying towards the other mountains. Sima Yue went to the mountains to take a look and let Little Roar call over the male spirit beast that she had hooked up with. She discovered that it was actually a saint beast, Iron Claw Tiger. She understood the general situation of Pu Luo mountain range from the Iron Claw Tiger, as well as the distribution of the spirit beasts. She then called it back. However, the Iron Claw Tiger stayed in front of her, unwilling to leave. What's wrong? Sima Yue asked. About that, I really like Little Roar. Since I'm alone, why don't you take me in? The Iron Claw Tiger said somewhat embarrassedly. Cough cough. Sima Yue almost choked to death on her own saliva. She looked at the Iron Claw Tiger in horror and said, Didn't you say that spirit beasts reject humans? You actually want to take the initiative to recognize me as your master? Furthermore, you're a saint beast. Why would you look up to a little spirit master like me? The Iron Claw Tiger looked at Little Roar and said, I was originally chased out by my clan and have always been wandering in the mountains. Boss is following you, so I think that you will definitely be very powerful in the future. I believe in Boss. Sima Yue glanced at the complacent Little Roar. She did not know how this guy had managed to trick a saint beast into coming over. Sima Yue spread out her hands and said, But I'm not a beast tamer, so I don't know how to tame beasts. It seems that spirit beasts that have not been tamed cannot be contracted, right? Ah, I forgot about this. Little Roar only thought of kidnapping a fighter for Sima Yue, and forgot about not being able to sign a contract. Then I can't follow Boss anymore? The Iron Claw Tiger said somewhat dejectedly. Chapter 39. She had already realized that this guy was not reliable at all. She did not expect him to come up with any good ideas. I'm telling the truth. Little Roar protested. Then tell me what ideas you have. Sima Yue said as she felt Little Roar's disappointment. Actually there was a way to contract without taming. Little Roar said. You can contract without taming? Sima Yue said in surprise. I've never heard of it before. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Little Roar said. Spirit beasts have always rejected humans. It's impossible to make them recognize you as their master. Furthermore, it's an ancient method that has been lost. That's why they don't know about it. There's such a thing. Sima Yue said. Of course. Think about that egg. Didn't it contract with you on its own accord? Little Roar said. Yeah. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Sima Yue looked at Little Roar and said. You already knew about it, right? But you weren't surprised. That's why you know what that egg is, right? Little Roar did not think that he would discover it just by mentioning Sima Yue. He patted his head and said, About that, Boss Chi said that I can't tell you. Aya, you don't ask about this. Not telling you is for your own good. I understand. Sima Yue saw Little Roar's vexed look, and did not want to make things difficult for him. Since he and Chi Yin said that it was for her own good, then she would not ask anymore. But the method you're talking about is to make it recognize you as its master? Yes. Little Roar nodded. Boss, but I don't know how to make it recognize you as its master. Iron Claw Tiger said. No problem, Boss will teach you. Little Roar patted Iron Claw Tiger's back and said. But you also said that the current spirit beasts do not know how to make a contract. How do you know? Sima Yue asked. Of course it's because of the inheritance. Little Roar said proudly. Don't forget that I'm an ancient spirit beast. We have an inheritance. Although I don't know, there's a method in the inheritance. After speaking, Little Roar closed his eyes and thought for a while. Very quickly he opened his eyes and said, "Found it." It whispered a few words into the tiger's ear, and then said, "You just have to say these few words." "All right, boss." The Iron Claw tiger nodded its head. After Little Roar left, it began to recite Little Roar's words. Sima Yue did not understand a single word he said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a contract array pattern appeared between her and Iron Claw. The Iron Claw tiger crouched down to show its submission. You, place your hand on its forehead." Little Roar reminded from the side. Sima Yue stepped forward and placed her hand on the Iron Claw tiger's head. She heard the Iron Claw tiger say, "I am willing to acknowledge Sima Yue as my master and become her contracted beast. I will protect her from now on and never leave her. Sima Yue, are you willing to form a contract with me?" "I am willing," Sima Yue replied. After she finished speaking, the contract array pattern below them began to flicker. The light surrounded the two of them and slowly shrunk. It split into two and entered their bodies. "Master." The Iron Claw tiger could feel the connection between itself and Sima Yue and shouted excitedly. "Ha! We actually formed a contract." Sima Yue squatted down and hugged the Iron Claw tiger's neck. "Haha, I told you we could form a contract." Little Roar said proudly. "Yes, this time it's all thanks to you," Sima Yue said. Through the contract, the Iron Claw tiger could feel that Sima Yue not only had an ancient divine beast like Little Roar, she also had an even more powerful contracted beast. It had only sensed it for a moment, but it was already frightened by the aura it emitted. That is the real boss. However, it is in a deep sleep. Don't disturb it, Little Roar reminded. Yes, I know, the Iron Claw tiger said. In its heart, it really recognized the right master. Do you have a name? Sima Yue touched the Iron Claw tiger's head and said, I don't. When I was born, my parents were already dead. I was never liked by the tigers, so no one gave me a name. In the end, I was even chased out by them. The Iron Claw tiger said. Sima Yue scratched the Iron Claw tiger's neck and said, Don't be sad. In the future, you will be with us. We will be a family. Since you don't have a name, then you will be called Yaguang. Thank you, Master. Yaguang rubbed Sima Yue's hand and said, Yaguang, I will be training in the Puluo mountain range for the next few days. I will be looking for some lower-ranked spirit beasts to battle with. Do you know where I can find some lower-ranked spirit beasts that live alone? Sima Yue asked. I know. In the past, when I was wandering, I had already explored most of the Puluo mountain range. Yaguang nodded and pointed to a mountain range not far away, saying, Most of the spirit beasts there live alone. Over there, most of the spirit beasts live in groups. The spirit beasts in the outer regions are lower ranked. Most of them are low-ranked spirit beasts. The middle and inner regions have higher-ranked spirit beasts. In the inner regions there are a few spirit beasts. Then is this place considered the outer regions, or the middle regions? Sima Yue asked. Master, this place is already considered the inner regions. Yaguang said. Inner regions? Sima Yue blinked and said, This is actually the inner regions. But why haven't I seen a single spirit beast? Cough cough, this is the inner regions. Yaguang said. But this is the edge of the inner regions. I don't know why, but the spirit beasts in the inner regions never come here. So it is normal for Master to not see any spirit beasts after staying here for so long. Then why did you come here? Sima Yue asked. I fought with a third-level spirit beast. It was 2 levels higher than me. I couldn't beat it, so I could only run. Yaguang said. But I didn't think that it would chase after me so fiercely. I panicked and ran. When I finally reacted, I was already here. Then I met Little Roar. A spirit beast actually dared to bully you. Let's go find it for revenge. Little Roar said. No need. Yaguang said. Sima Yue grabbed Little Roar and said, If you go like this, who will fight? Can you beat it? If I wasn't injured, why would I care about a small third-level spirit beast? Little Roar said. Yaguang can't beat it. You don't have any battle strength now. I'm just a 5th level spirit master. Am I looking for death? Sima Yue said. Little Roar, Master is right. If we go now, we won't be able to beat anyone. We will even put Master in danger. Ye Guang was obviously more mature than Little Roar and said, Anyway, it didn't get any benefits from me. It won't be too late to take revenge after I become stronger. Alright then. Little Roar thought about it and agreed. If Sima Yue was in danger, it would be troublesome. After all, her strength was still so low. Chapter 40. You're back. Do you know where we are now? Wu Lingyu looked at Sima Yue and asked, You don't know where we are? Didn't you come here by yourself? Sima Yue asked, I only know that I came to Puluo mountain range, but something happened and I don't know where I am now. Wu Lingyu said, We are in the inner circle of Puluo mountain range. Sima Yue said, I was sent here directly. You were alone in the inner circle and didn't get killed by the sacred beasts. You're really lucky. We're actually in the inner circle. Wu Lingyu muttered. You've been here for so long, why didn't any spirit beasts come to find trouble with you? They hate humans very much. Sima Yue was stunned. She thought about how no spirit beasts had come after her for so long. She thought that it was because there were no spirit beasts here. But Ye Guang said that there were spirit beasts here. Could it be that Crimson Flame was here? So they didn't come? She knew that in the world of spirit beasts, ranks were very strict. Based on Little Roar's reaction, and her own contract advancement, Crimson Flame must be a very powerful spirit beast. The aura it emitted could make spirit beasts feel afraid, so they stayed away from this canyon. Even spirit beasts were afraid of it. What kind of monster did she contract with? Sima Yue couldn't help but think. Wu Lingyu saw Sima Yue deep in thought and said, You know the reason? How would I know? Sima Yue shrugged and said, Don't forget that I'm trash. I don't know much about these things. Didn't you say that rumors can't be trusted? Wu Lingyu said, You can't believe everything, but you can't not believe everything. Haven't you heard of this before? Sima Yue said. She thought that with him around, she would definitely not be able to cultivate, so she took out a pot and prepared to cook dinner. Didn't you just eat? Wu Lingyu said. Sima Yue glanced at him and said, Didn't you and Little Roar eat more than half of it? It's already night time, so it's naturally time for dinner. After she finished speaking, she took out the items. Looking at the enclosed environment, she put the items back into her space ring and went out of the cave to take them out again. Wu Lingyu thought for a while and got down from the bed. He walked out of the cave and watched Sima Yue skillfully wash the rice and cook. Are you like this at home too? He asked aloud. He had only heard of her reputation as a trash, but he didn't know that she was so skilled in cooking. Or rather, the food she made should be better than the food made by the chefs of ordinary restaurants. Sort of. Sima Yue glanced at him. The pills in this world were indeed powerful. Take the injury on his stomach for example. If it was in her previous life, he would have to rest in bed for at least a few months. However, he could get out of bed in just a few hours. Wu Lingyu leaned against the wall at the entrance of the cave and didn't say anything. He just watched Sima Yue cook, or looked at the Puluo mountains under the night sky. After Sima Yue finished cooking, she scooped out 2 portions and placed them on the table. She said, You strong people don't seem to eat much. If you don't want to eat, just leave it there. Although I don't feel hungry, I want to try seeing you cook so enthusiastically. The moonlight was like water. The 2 of them sat on the table and ate. From time to time, the roars of spirit beasts could be heard. Because it was already late, she only made porridge and 2 side dishes. Although the style was simple, the taste was completely different from the food in this world. Even someone like him who was never interested in eating couldn't help but eat a second bowl. After Sima Yue finished eating, she placed the bowl on the table and looked at Wu Lingyu. She said, You wash the dishes. Me? Wash the dishes? Wu Lingyu suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Since he was young, he had never done such a thing. Now, an ant from a lower realm that he could crush with his hands was actually asking him to wash the dishes. That's right. I cooked, so of course it's your turn to wash the dishes. Sima Yue said matter-of-factly. Don't forget that I'm equivalent to your employer. I'm paying you to accompany me. Wu Lingyu said faintly. You said that you'll give me 2 advancement pills. But what if you return when the time comes? You have to give me half of the payment first. Only then can I confirm our employment relationship. Sima Yue said as she stretched out her hand in front of Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu looked at the small hand in front of him. Under the moonlight, it was as smooth as jade. He suddenly wanted to know how it would feel to hold this hand in his hand. However, he had never been interested in women, so this thought was just a passing thought. With a thought, a small jade bottle appeared in his hand. He placed the jade bottle in Sima Yue's hand and got up to enter the cave. Sima Yue opened the bottle and sniffed. There was a faint fragrance. Little spirit, she called out. What is it? Little spirit replied. Since your previous master was a pill master, then you should be able to recognize the advancement pills, right? Can you help me see if this is the advancement pill? After speaking, she kept the jade bottle in her spirit pearl. Little spirit took the jade bottle and opened it to take a look. He said, yes, and it's a top-grade pill. That's good. Sima Yue heard little spirit's reply and happily went to wash the dishes. After she cleaned everything up, she walked around the canyon to digest her food before returning to the cave. Wu Lingyu was lying on the bed pretending to be asleep. He felt a shadow looming over him. He opened his eyes and asked, What are you doing? You can sleep inside. Sima Yue said. Why? Wu Lingyu asked. I want to sleep. You can sleep in the middle and occupy the entire bed. Sima Yue said as she sat on the bed and bent over to remove her shoes. No. Wu Lingyu rejected. Why? Sima Yue got up and looked at Wu Lingyu in confusion. I'm not used to sleeping with others. Wu Lingyu said. I don't like sleeping with others either. But this is my bed and I only have one bed. May I ask if you have a bed? No. Wu Lingyu said. His basic necessities were usually taken care of by others, and he didn't need to take care of them. Therefore, he didn't have the awareness to bring a bed. Then that's it. Sima Yue said. We only have one bed now. If we don't sleep together, where am I going to sleep? Why don't you return the bed to me? Sima Yue took off her shoes and saw that Wu Lingyu didn't move. She used all her strength to push him. Wu Lingyu, this is my bed. It's mine now. Wu Lingyu said indifferently. When he saw Sima Yue touching him, he subconsciously patted Sima Yue's hand. Sima Yue used her hand as a knife and slashed towards Wu Lingyu. The two of them went from pushing each other to fighting. Sima Yue's moves were fast and accurate. Wu Lingyu didn't fall behind either. Even though he was lying down, he was still evenly matched with Sima Yue. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.